I'm 1 minute early. What? What? Is that ever unexpected? I do the unexpected. You got to do the unexpected sometimes, every once in a while. Yes, that's right. I'm early for my own stream. Never happens. Absolutely never happens. Welcome, everybody. Come on in, chat. Why don't you get on over here? Welcome to the show. This is a Friday night live show. I try to do this every single week because, well, if you're new to the channel, here's how it works around here. I do videos every morning and now in the evenings as well. I've been doing this for about 2 years, since the convoy. And on every Friday, I like to get in touch with everybody because the week is so crazy busy. And I know so many people are commenting and saying such great things. I want to give back to the community, or at least get in touch with everybody and have a moment with everybody where we can chill out live, have some laughs, talk about serious things, get a little bit more in depth with some of the things that we're covering on a daily basis. And I try to get as many stories out there as possible, but there's no way to get that many stories out there, especially with how much is going on in Canada at the moment. I mean, I'd like to talk about worldly things, but too much is happening in Canada. Pandemonium with a $2 super chat. Hit the like button. Give a Clyde a hand. Well, thank you very much. Yes. Hit that like button. There's hundreds of you in there at the moment, and there's just 150 likes. You know what? This really helps the channel. What it does actually is the algorithmic little gremlins. They latch onto those likes and they go running over to other parts of the internet and they say, hey, you know, I know somebody who likes stuff just like this other person. I bet you they'd like it too. So they run on off over and they throw these recommendations out there. And they say, hey, why don't you check out this guy? He's got some things to say. So get down there, hit that like button. It helps out a ton. And of course, I appreciate it so much. I absolutely do. This is going to be a fun show tonight. I've been looking forward to this one all week. Christian with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you so much. So very much. No message, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This is going to be a really fun stream, actually. So you guys are probably no strangers to Northern Perspective. There are some great YouTubers these days have been really busy, especially with this Arrive scam story, and they've been going really hard on that one. And yeah, speak of the devil, Northern Perspective with a $5 super chat. If you like NP, then you'll also like Clyde. Give the like button a tickle. Just just one of those little tickle. Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you in the second hour of the show. So if you're unfamiliar with the format of things and how we do things around here, the first half of the show, it's just me talking about a bunch of the stories, some of the nuance of other stories, maybe some of the things I couldn't get to that I wanted to get to, but didn't make it into the main stories on the normal videos every single day. But if you like this content and you're new, say perhaps you've come over just because Northern Perspective told you to come over, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's down below. So yeah, why don't we get on with some of this stuff that I didn't even get a chance to touch on just as of yet. Now I'm going to wait until the second hour to talk about the Arrive scam, because I'm going to ask the experts. That's exactly it. If you want to hear about that, of course, Northern Perspective. I've been chilling them out for a while now because people want me to talk about the story. Yeah, I'll talk about it, but nobody's going more in depth than, of course, Northern Perspective. That is the truth. That is the truth. Nobody on the internet is going as deep as they are on this one. Christian with a $6.99 super chat. First time superheating, I'm guessing super chatting ever, was going to say, did you watch Northern Perspective last night? What a clown show. I missed the show because I was busy. I was actually busy putting some stories together. There was I was talking to Christine Christensen, the lawyer that's actually suing on behalf of, there's two lawsuits now on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces members that were kicked out during the pandemic, and they were kicked out because of, well, that's it. They didn't want to do the old the old boost. They didn't want to get boosted. So what's happening in the military right now? Well, it turns out they're laxing their standards to let people in. There are like 300 people that want to go back into the military, and they can't find any recruits. Meanwhile, yeah, they won't let these people back in. So I was communicating about that. I know my favorite channel on the interwebs, but I knew that they were going to be catching me up on a lot of what's happening tonight, and that's the whole point of that. The crazy part is when you make content on the internet, it's really hard to consume a lot of content. But I do, if you guys know, I spent some time in their chat. That's absolutely on the ball. Holy. Why don't we get into some of these stories here? Let me just close this one here. One I wanted to get into this week, which is just an embarrassment, a real embarrassment. And that is, this is from the National Post here. First reading, Supreme Court decision opts for person with a vagina over woman. This is a real story. This is not the Babylon Bee. No, this is real. This is a real story here in Canada, and this is not just some idiot on Twitter saying this. No, this is a Supreme Court judge, Philip Ontokos. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. With a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Clyde. You are my after work go-to, and Northern Perspective is my morning before work intake. You both are awesome. Keep her up. Thank you so much, Philip. Appreciate that. I can't wait for Northern Perspective to catch you up on what happened last night. Was crazy. Yeah, I wanna know about this. I really do. Holy cow. Yeah. Anyway, moving on with this story. Because the second hour is just gonna get insane. So I'm kind of leaving that story to the second hour of the show. We'll get to that. Believe you me. A decision in a sexual assault case implied that the complainant should be properly known as a person with a vagina, not a woman in this case. This is completely unprompted. In fact, what I found interesting was the fact that here's Keith Wilson commenting on this. And he says, based on my review, if you don't know who Keith Wilson is, he's official King's Counsel. That's like the highest level of lawyer you can get in Canada. It's no joke. So like when he's giving his legal opinion, you better listen to it. Based on my review of the Supreme Court of Canada decision, the lower court's decision, the leave applications and the factums, no party before the court raised the concern about the term woman, and none advocated for the replacement, person with vagina. The Supreme Court of Canada created this new nomenclature all on its own. And here's the writ here, where a person with a vagina testifies credibly and with certainty that the felt... I don't even have to say these things out loud. Yeah, the felt thing that happens in one of those things in one of these cases. Trial judge be entitled to conclude that they are likely to be mistaken, while the choice of the trial judge to use the words "a woman" may have been unfortunate and endangered confusion. Engendered confusion, my bad. In context, it's clear the judge was reasoning that it was extremely unlikely the complaint would be mistaken about feeling of the stuff that goes in those things because people generally, even if intoxicated, are not mistaken about that sensation. In other words, the judge's conclusion was grounded in his assessment of the complainant's testimony. The Court of Appeal erred in finding otherwise. How far have we come? We talked about this, I think it was just last week. Even in Japan, we're seeing some of this stuff. By the way, I'm going to be going to Japan next week, so the schedule is going to get a little bit messed up. Let's bring the chat back. The schedule is going to get a little bit messed up starting next week and for several weeks. It happens from time to time. I go to Japan. People who know me or know the channel, if you're new here, my wife is from Japan, and so we visit the in-laws. We try to every year. It doesn't happen every year, especially during the pandemic. It didn't happen at all. But things are going to get a little hectic. Trish Prue, the $5 super chat. So does that mean a man is a person without a vagina? So this is where this intersectionality crap in the woke culture really messes with language and messes with everything. I doubt that's going to be the case, because a person without vagina would be like I don't know. They have to specify this because they want to say a woman can be without, and it just gets ridiculous. You throw all logic out the window. It really is just about confusing people. It's not about being accurate in anything. Joan 5656 with a $6.99 super chat. Thank you so much, so very much, and thank you as well, Trish Prue. Thank you, Clyde. You got me watching Northern Perspective after they were on your show. Love you both. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I really am glad to hear that. They have been doing fantastically, and it's not because of me at all. No, it's absolutely about what work they've been doing. If I was able to give them a boost, that's amazing. But they've done it all on their own. They're killing it, absolutely killing it, and for good reason as well. Clyde, show us Japan when you go there. I will, absolutely. I will show you Japan. One thing I always like to do on every trip is I like to do a live stream from the streets of Tokyo. Now, it might get a little bit difficult there because there's some new streamer laws in Japan because of some real idiots that were doing some really idiotic things over there. Mr. Excuses with a $2 super chat. Many are mad with Planet Fitness. They went woke. Yeah, they went woke, and that's yeah. No, yeah. If a company goes woke, there's a reason why I say go woke, get broke, because it really makes the customer base want to ditch the company entirely. Which is what I've done with Disney. So this was another thing that we used to go to do when we were in Japan, is we used to always go to Disneyland as a family, and we no longer do that. No, no thanks. Just not going to give them my money. No thanks at all. Canada with a $27.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Clyde, can you do a deep dive on the two BC Conservative parties on another stream? You said BC United are liberals. They are not. At least in my riding of Peace River South, we can't split the vote and let NDP win again. Yeah, well, there's arguments on both sides of that one. Who's the party splitting the vote? Now, the BC United did used to be the Liberal Party. It used to be the Liberal Party of British Columbia, and they did do a name change. So yeah, they are formerly the Liberal Party of British Columbia. If you look up most of the MPs, even on their wiki pages, they haven't switched it over. It all still says Liberal Party of British Columbia. But yeah, they were just called the BC Liberals, but they are conservative. So that is the case. Now, there's a lot of contention even within the party, and the Conservative Party itself goes even further into the Conservatives. Now, there's argument on both sides of it. You know, the Conservatives are splitting the vote versus the BC United are splitting the vote. There was a moment where they were trying to bring things together, and then that didn't work out. So I'd like to dig more into it. I would like to dig more into it. I have talked to some of the people involved in it, and there's a lot of contention. There's a lot of people pointing fingers at a lot of people. But I do know that the BC Liberals, which was the BC Liberals, and they changed their name. They were supportive of a lot of the stuff during the pandemic, when I think John Rustad, who is the leader of the Conservatives, I think he got ousted from them for being so against the measures that were happening in British Columbia. So yeah, I'm gonna do more work on that, and I'll get into that one. So, and thank you so much for the super chat. Penny D with the $5 super chat. I love you, Clyde, and Northern Perspective. Wishing the best for everyone. Well, wish the best for you. Thank you, appreciate that. Nux for Cup with a $2 super chat. Neither party supports banning the BC climate tax. Neither party supports banning it. You talking about the carbon tax? I know, because I spoke with John Rustad when I was in Calgary, and he absolutely wants to get rid of the carbon tax, and he's very skeptical of what any of these measures, climate measures, are doing at all, except impoverishing Canadians, or well, in this case, British Columbians. The BC carbon tax, the BC carbon tax. So just John Rustad, leader of the Conservatives, absolutely against that. I'd like to hear the other side of the argument. I absolutely would. Diane Sullivan, welcome. Thanks for joining as a member. That's awesome. Amazing. Okay, let's get into some of these other ones, because this whole woke thing, it's driving everybody nuts. This whole persons with a vagina, instead of calling them women. Of course, National Post are also writing an article saying we don't need persons with a vagina added to the legal vernacular. For the second time in the past year, the Supreme Court of Canada has adopted terminology promoted by gender activists, and it's troubling. It really is troubling. Woke is barf. Absolutely. I love seeing that in the chat. Yeah, woke. It's divide and conquer conquest. I mean, if you don't see it any other, like, you have to see it that way. You really take a step back and go, oh, so this woke is the idea of intersectionality, right? The concept of intersectionality is to break everybody up into group dynamics. So you're part of this group and you intersect with that group and blah blah blah. It's pitting people into groups and pitting them up against each other. What else can you call that? I love the idea of if you take intersectionality and you go to its ultimate ends, like you break people down into particular groups, and eventually, if you just keep going with that, you'll find the ultimate minority group is the individual, because every single individual is their own individual thing. And I'm fully supportive of that. If we can go all the way to the other side of wokeism and get to the point where we all believe that everybody's an individual and everybody is should be protected under the law equally, and the individual is the ultimate minority. That is exactly it is division. It's what the liberals want. Yeah, it totally is. And I can't say enough about what's happening and I keep hearing about it, because a friend of mine that I work with, he's from Chile. He's actually moving back. He's like, Canada, forget it, I'm out of here. Looks like South America is coming around. So he's moving back to Chile, but I mean, it neighbors with Argentina. Chile's not doing super hot right now, but Argentina is killing it with Javier Milei, and he's doing a bang up job. Got to look your best. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just reading some DMs that just got sent my way. But yeah, this whole thing is just divide and conquer tactics. It sucks because people keep falling for it. And I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast just today. Amazingly, he released his podcast onto YouTube. I guess he's doing that now again. But with Lindsay, what's his name? Somebody in the chat, get it? Why am I drawing a blank? Anyway, the two of them, they were talking about this, and they were talking about how it breeds like a lot of racism. James Lindsay, that's right. Thank you so much. It breeds animosity between the races. And James Lindsay, at one point, he had said, if you take the intersectionality and you take it all the way to its endpoint, they would probably want, this white fragility thing. They would probably just want to take out all the whites. That's the inevitability of it. So it's a dangerous concept. But what it does is also, on the other side, is when you're targeting a particular group and saying that they're the bad guys in culture, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see offshoots out of that group getting angered and having thoughts of racism towards other groups as well. And we're seeing that sprouting up, and I don't like to see it. I really don't like to see it, because it's low tier thinking for one. It's super low tier thinking, and it's exactly what you're being guided right into. This whole concept of, you know, particular races or particular groups have any sort of any you know, thing that, you know, I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. It's not Lindsey Graham, no. Lindsey Graham, he's a piece of work. That guy, he wants to spend all our money on disassembling people across the planet. But you know, as a Canadian, you don't really have much of a say. I am a dual citizen. If I was in his voting block, I'd vote against him. But that's the thing. I'm with you there, Clyde. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy, and I really hate to see it. I really hate to see people getting fed right into it, you know. And this is why you got to stop, take a breath, go outside, touch grass every once in a while. Like, please, everybody, go do that. Just go. If you're on your phone right now, if you're on your phone watching this, just go outside and touch grass. even if you have to put the phone down for a second, or you're watching on your computer, go outside, touch grass. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how insane people have been getting over a lot of this stuff. And wow, you really need to let loose every once in a while. Enjoy your trip in Japan. This is my letting loose. I'm gonna go to Japan. I'm gonna go have some amazing food. I'm gonna take you guys on a tour. Of course, it'll be on a Friday night, one of these nights, which is like morning over there. So you'll get to watch me walking around in the daytime while we stream, having some fun there, as well as doing videos. I'm gonna try to get as much of that stuff going as I can. Now let's get into this next story. I wanted to talk about this pandemonium of the $5 super chat. Touch grass. Oh my God, Clyde went green. Oh, you know, it's funny. I mean, it's funny because I actually am an environmentalist. A real one. I actually care about the environment. And that's funny. And thank you so much for the super chat. It's really funny. But yeah, no, I'm actually, I would probably say a staunch environmentalist. I want to see industry come up and survive, but be clean as possible. I want to see us do the right things. I want Canada to be a beacon to the rest of the world of how to have booming industry, massive, awesome booming industry, forestry, energy, all of these things, and do it the cleanest of anybody else out there and make the most profit possible. I'm not a whack job. This is why I made the t-shirt, and a lot of people love this shirt. And it's the ecological, not environmental. Emphasis on the logical and not mental. You know, we can care about the environment and not be crazy like Stephen Guilbeault, or, you know, all of these characters that think the sky's falling, that think that we're you know, it's not happening. I mean, your first clue is you could buy a mortgage for a place that's right on the waterfront. Do you think for a second, if the sea levels were going to rise, that banks would risk all that money, giving you money to buy a piece of waterfront property? I don't think so. Not at all. So yeah, this is why I put this shirt out there. Anyway, I could go on all these rants about all of this stuff. It's crazy. Marie Perrin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, with a $5 super chat. Not against them. They just have they have all the rights we do. Just stop pushing it and leave kids be kids. Just leave us, or leave our kids alone, or leave us kids our lives. Anytime there's a typo, I don't even know where to go. The dyslexia takes over. But thank you so much, Marie Perrin. Yes, leave us to live our lives. Absolutely. And I'm all for that. You know, it's hard. People want to put you in a box. So like I always tell people, I guess I'm a libertarian, or I'll say I'm a classical liberal, right? I'm a Thomas Paine liberal. Like that's where I'm at. I believe the government should be as small as possible and hell out of your life. Just that's it. Pandemonium with the $2 super chat. You're not an environmentalist. You're ecological. I like that. I like that. And I think a majority of Canadians are. I don't think that's an unusual position to take as a Canadian. I think most Canadians are in a situation where they're, they care about the environment. We've talked about it for most of us for most of our lives, all of our lives, some of us, and we make stupid decisions because of it. In fact, the whole concept of recycling and all the ritual that we do for recycling, most people don't know that it actually does. We're not even recycling that stuff. We send it on barges. It goes all the way to the Philippines. They sort through it, and then they throw most of it away. They throw most of it in landfills and stuff like that, or send it off to be incinerated. It's crazy. We could be doing so much better stuff that's better for the environment and profitable at the same time. Al Pipk with a $5 super chat. Got another shirt idea for you. There's one thing you can say about the left: they will never be right. Okay, I like that. I do like that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Alta Peasley with a $6.99 super chat. So the assailant in a sexual assault would be called a person with a penis. Yeah. Is that what we've come down to now? Is this really what we've come down to? I think it's ridiculous. I think we should put it away. Put it away. Put the insanity away. It's just ridiculous. I'm at a loss for words for this junk. It's craziness. It really is. It's craziness. Pandemonium, again, you're super generous today. Thank you so much with a $20 super chat. Society tries to paint us as consumers. Spend some time on a farm and you'll grow a garden, and you'll get what my grandfather used to tell me: we are custodians. I like that. I like that a lot. And by the way, I do grow a garden. My wife and I, she spends more time on the garden than I do. Yes, sweetie, if you're watching, I'll acknowledge that for sure. She spends way more time on the garden than I do. She takes care of all the plants. It's amazing. And it's a lot of work. It's absolutely a lot of work. And you really won't appreciate it as much unless you've actually done it. I think that's great advice to go out, spend some time on a farm or grow a garden, because you'll have so much more appreciation for stuff. Leo Orchard with the $5 super chat. You are doing your little bit to change the world, and you're doing it brilliantly. Keep up the good work, bro. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's amazing. That's really nice. That's a really kind thing to say. Diane Sylvain, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, with a $20 super chat. The ones getting crazy, in my humble opinion, is the screaming minority woke crowd. They are not the majority. Most of us want to be able to express an opinion without being demonized. It's called freedom of speech. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you should be able to express anything that you want to express. And it sucks because when you stand up for free speech, when you do this, you have to defend the most horrible, heinous people out there. That's the nature of the beast, right? It's the people that are trying to remove free speech. They have an easy time because they can just go, look at how horrible that is. Do you want more of that? You free speech. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, you have to end up defending like really awful people with really awful opinions and really awful things that they say. You know, things like the Westboro Baptist Church. Like, come on. We all know what they said. But you gotta stand up for their right to say it, which sucks, but it's the reality of it. That's the reality of the fight, and that's the fight we have on our hands. Because you lose freedom of speech. It's the speech. Speech is the freedom to protect all other freedoms. That's crazy. It's crazy. The Excalibur 45. I hope I'm not missing one here. Excalibur 45 with the. Actually, I really like that name. The Excalibur 45 with a $6.99 super chat. I'm getting the reference now. BC United used to be BC Liberals, and most were social credit before they lost party status. BC Liberals were conservative. Okay. Yeah, well, they lost social credit before they lost party status. Interesting. Again, I'm gonna look more into this. I wanna talk to, because I've talked to John Rustad. I'd love to talk to the leader of the other party, BC United, if he'll talk with me, if he'll have a conversation with me, and I kind of want to see why they can't just join forces, become a BC United. Let's unite. That's a thing. Milady Loves Cats, welcome back, and thanks for the $5 super chat. Hit the like, folks. Many likes go a long way. They absolutely do. Come on, guys. We could get to 1,000 easy in no time. Come on. Hit that like. Don't forget to do that. Whoa, holy cow. Like giver with the $50 super chat. Thank you so much. Wow. The sheeple don't want sentimentality. They don't want sentimentality. So am I reading this wrong? Sentimentally. They don't want sentimentally. They don't want freedom or empowerment. They want to be controlled. They crave the comfort of certainty. A quote from the Marxist Revolution. That's interesting. Now, James Lindsay was talking about, what did he call it? I forget what he called it on Rogan's podcast the other night. It was, I'm drawing a blank on what he said, but I remember the sentiment of it. It's the compliant, the tyranny of the compliant, or something along those lines. And it's, these people that would just comply along with this thing. Like the woke people, I don't consider are like the sheep people, or people call them sheeple or whatever. The sheeple are people who are just like, come on, can I just move on with my life? I just want to do the thing. I want to dirt bike. I want to go fishing. I want to do my thing. And then they just get caught up in it. And it's unfortunate, but in times like this, we really all need to be paying attention. It's the compliant that are really helping usher this in, because they just don't want the trouble. And I get it, because, you got these schmarmy little woke people that want to give you crap over every little aspect of everything that you do. So you just try to comply. At some point, you just got to say, nope, not going to do it. Sorry, not sorry. And I hope we don't, we wake up a lot of people that are just the tyranny of the compliant. Anyway, Penny D with a $5 super chat. I really don't have much to say, LOL, just enjoying. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. That's hilarious. Thomas Soulier. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Doesn't that mean shoe? Soulier? Soulier. I don't know. I'm sorry. With a $10 super chat. I heard you say once that you were in the Austrian School of Economics. And I would love to hear your opinion of Milton Friedman and the Chicago School. Great channel, and thank you for all you do. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of Milton Friedman and the Chicago School. I'm not fundamentally against what they have to say. I've done a lot of reading into. I just finished Thomas Sowell's newest book, Social Justice Fallacies. I got the book here. This one here, Social Justice Fallacies. Yeah, Thomas Sowell's from the Chicago School of Economics. He's done fantastic work. Really a big fan of him and Milton Friedman, but also a fan of Mises and Hayek and Rothbard and Dr. Walter Block. He's one of my favorite professors. I hope one day to have him on the show. I would absolutely love that. Jeffrey Tucker, another great writer. This is a great book. I always recommend to people if you want to get people to understand private miracles and public crimes. This is a fantastic little read with like really easy to digest chapters. Fantastic book. And he works with the Mises Institute. He's been doing a lot of stuff with Naomi Wolf as of late, which was seemingly like a bizarre get together. But Yeah, I could go on and on and on. Every time I talk to Franco Terrazzano as well, we get rapping on about the Austrian School of Economics. His dog's name is Mises or Ludwig. Sorry, his dog's name's Ludwig. It's hilarious. Yeah, big fan of the work, but I don't think there's a ton of fundamental gripes between the two schools of thought. In fact, in Social Justice Fallacies, Thomas Sowell brings up Friedrich Hayek's a lot of points that he brought up. So there's a lot more camaraderie between the two schools of thought than there is animosity, in my opinion. The Mises camp tends to lean a lot more libertarian, even than the Chicago school, more minimalist, and even into like the capitalist direction. Sometimes it goes a little too far for me when you get into Murray Rothbard. So yeah, I could go on all night. But there's a lot of other topics to get to. So thank you so much, Thomas, for the super chat. And that's an engaging conversation. I would love to bring in some people to talk specifically about economics. I'm such a dork. I'm such a dork because I love this stuff. I love talking economics. I think it's such a fascinating thing when you understand how these systems work and where the logic comes from in all of this. People say that it's not a science. It absolutely is a science. If you follow John Maynard Keynes, it's not a science. Light Giver with a $5 super chat. Clyde, it was from the movie The Matrix. Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry about that. Penny D with a $5 super chat. Clyde, I think you would be a great writer and or storyteller. Possibly. Maybe I should look into that. I've always wanted to write. At least I always wanted to write stuff about economics, but in a way that's digestible for people that aren't into economics. You know what I mean? Maybe I could get into that and maybe work on something. But I spend a lot of time making videos. So as soon as I have some time freed up, which is like, what can I've been having a hard time tuning my piano this week because I've just been so busy. I can only do like a couple of strings at a time, and it's so out of tune now because it's half in tune and half not in tune. The Book of Clyde Economics. Yeah, that'd be interesting. More if I did that, it would be more expounding on other people's theories. I wouldn't be bringing up new theories. I would really be expounding on it and doing it in a way that would help people who aren't maybe not so into it find a love for it. You know what I mean? And get into that. That would be my hope. I was supposed to do a poll tonight. That's right. I was supposed to do this. How do you do these polls? Engage with your audience. I have to start a poll because the question last week was, what do the fans of this channel call themselves? I don't know. I don't. It's so funny. Like merch shop. That was the last thing on my mind when I was making videos until people were like, "Come on, man, make it." So I made it and it's available. But all of these things. So I'll start a poll and. I wrote down the most common ones that people wanted. So I'll do this in here. Boom. And then add some options here. And they got silly and I had to break it down to just like several. Cause the names really got on the silly side. And it's embarrassing for me because I don't, hearing my name being said and, getting praise and stuff, it's always been an awkward thing for me. I don't know why, but that's the thing. So it came down to people who wanted to be called either Clydeites, Clydesters, or Clydians. And I'm going to start the poll here. I'm going to put it in the chat so everybody can give their opinion on this, and we'll end the poll in a little bit here. But get that going. See how many people like which one and where it goes. Because look, it's jumping all over the place now. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. Okay, scrolling up. I don't want to miss any of these. Dafaichu with a $10 super chat. I believe you would enjoy talking with Gardner Goldsmith regarding economics. He's a really interesting and great guy. I'm gonna type him into Google so I can check that out later. I love talking economics, so if somebody else wants to talk about it with me, sure, I'd have a lot of fun with that. So thank you, Dafaichu, for the suggestion. Trish Prue. Oh, I'm clicking on stuff all over the place. Where am I? Trish Prue, the $5 super chat. Clyde, are you part Irish? You have the gift of gab, LOL. No, I'm not. No Irish. My mom's side Scottish, and well, I mean, who knows? There could be Irish in there. And then my dad's side is American. His I think his ancestry comes from Cornwall, England. So. Yeah, definitely that part of the earth is where my ancestry comes from. All right, David Edwards with a $10 super chat. The guy who is running for the CPC in my riding worked for the Liberals for 10 years. He then was a Liberal in City Hall. He advocated for using the military against the convoy. I can't vote for him. Then don't vote for him. Yeah, don't vote for that. In fact, what I would do in your position is I would send letters to the party and say, this guy is gonna lose you the vote in my riding. Maybe you want to oust him, maybe you want to get rid of him and let somebody else run in there for the next election. Cause yeah, that's it. I agree. I absolutely agree with you. I really want to get rid of the guy that's in my riding, but he's a Liberal. But it was unforgivable, his stance on the Emergencies Act. It was unforgivable. You'll never get my vote after voting for that, period. That's a non-starter at that point. Gary Crail with a $5 super chat. I had promised $50 if we get that figured. I don't want to be embarrassing. I don't want it to be embarrassing. Well, I don't know. This is democracy, right? You give people the options and then they vote for it. So we'll see where it ends up. It's pretty funny though. It's pretty funny. And thank you, Gary Crail, for that. Appreciate it. Vesper, that's a familiar name. Welcome, Vesper Digital, with a $5 super chat. All of these are wrong. Clyde, do something. It should be the Clydesteins. Is that what you said? Clydesteins? The Clydesteins? Like the Clydestein Bears? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take the winner of this, and then I'll do a second poll and see what gets chosen between the winner and Clydesteins. I think that's funny. I think that's actually hilarious, and it's all in caps too. Funny. Oh, Vesper, you never cease to make me laugh. Okay, so what was the winning of the poll? Let's end the poll. Where is it at? Clydesters with 62% of the vote. Clydesters. So we're gonna do a second poll because I think that's funny. I think that's actually really hilarious. Clydesteins. Is that like the Philistines or something? Oh, this is cracking me up. This stuff. You guys are hilarious. Start a poll. Okay. This could be that, or I'm gonna put it all caps for this one too. It's up to you guys. It's totally up to you guys. Why is that lowercase? Come on. Come on. All right. What's it gonna be? Start the poll. What's it gonna be? This is just silly. This is really just silly. Clandestines. Get out of here. Get out of here. That's too funny. Vesper with another super chat, throwing that one in there. I like clandestine. Clydadians crew. Oh, that's funny. You guys are hilarious. No Clydesdales? Oh, do a lot of people like Clydesdales? Clyderators? It sounds like it's not even decided at this point. It's not even decided. Oh, it's still Clydesters is still killing it. It looks like that's gonna be the one. Oh wow. Okay. While that's going, I wanted to bring this one up because we got into that environmental question, and I'd like to touch on this one. This is Chance Barber. He's an excellent Clyde Club. I love that. That's pretty good, the dude. Thank you so much for that. So he's an innovative guy, entrepreneur. Started Edison Motors in British Columbia, and Edison Motors, what they do is they make they repurpose old off-highway logging trucks. And I think they're going to be doing this with on-highway logging, logging trucks, commercial vehicles, this kind of thing. And one more poll, Clyde. Clydesdale versus Clydesdales. It would be a landslide. Okay, well, okay. Clydesdales clearly won this poll. Clearly won this poll. While this video is playing, I'll start another poll, and I'll do those two, and then it's over. And it's over. Once it's decided, it's decided. And then that's it. Okay, forever hold your peace. Is that where we're gonna go with this one? Clyde Nation. Oh, I like that too. But I don't want to start another nation. I like the Canadian nation. That's where we're at. Anyway, let's start this video. This is Chase Barber talking about how just stupid government is.
So here's an example of some of the petty kind of bullshit that Edison Motors has to deal with dealing with our government. Probably going to ruffle some feathers making this video, but I don't care. So back on January 5th, we got invited down to talk at an event put on by the province of British Columbia talking about leading innovation in the electrification of industry.
D-Mac with a 279 super chat. Thank you so much.
Zero emissions fleet event. Talking about innovation for electric heavy-duty commercial vehicles. Which makes sense because we're the only company in BC making electric heavy-duty commercial vehicles. But earlier this week, we got invited down to the Legislative Assembly. This is where our buddy Ellis Ross, who is in the official opposition, introduced us to the government and said that we need to support local businesses like this. And really, we talked about how we're not getting government support. Which is true, because the only thing the government has ever done for us is inviting us to speak at this one single event. But this is how petty it is. After somebody from the opposition supported Edison Motors, we got our speaking engagement at this government-funded event canceled. I'm tired of this. I just want to build trucks.
How unbelievable is that? So he just, for the crime of speaking to someone who's another politician who supports what they're doing, they got their event canceled. They're not allowed to talk about this stuff, even though the NDP purport to be all about this stuff, all about environment and saving the planet and all this other stuff. They're the only company making diesel electric hybrids for industrial use. Unbelievable. Are we a club now? Andrew Isherwood with a 6.99 super chat. I want to fight for my right to walk with the Clydester. Maybe someday, maybe one day. We do meetups every once in a while. Did one with Marty last time when we were in thing. Oh, by the way, people, there's gonna be or whatever you want to be called. Right now, it's hovering. Is it gonna be the Clydesters? I don't know. It's hovering. I'm gonna be at this big event that's happening in the end of June in Victoria. And this is going to be a big one. And I love that they're going to Woke Central for this event of free speech, free thinking, free-minded people that are going to be part of this event. It's going to be freaking-tastic. I am looking forward to it so much, and I was invited to come in and be a speaker at this event. So I'll be there for the 3 days that it's going on. I'll have more information about the dates and all this other stuff. But yeah, if you're in the British Columbia area, or even if you're somewhere else and you want to come out for this event, it's going to be big, and there's going to be opposition because it's in the wokest place in Canada. Expect opposition, and that's kind of that's sort of the goal, actually, is to make that. And I love to do a meet and greet and hang out with all kinds of people that want to come out and hang. Lightgiver, the $10 super chat. This name Clyde originated in Celtic times. It was used in Scotland, and Ulster was a name for the people who lived by the banks of the River Clyde, which flows through Glasgow. And interestingly enough, my mother is from a town called Renfrew, which is on the River Clyde. Incidentally, my name came from my dad's side. It was my dad's name. It was my grandfather's name. So so be it. Go figure. And their lineage is from Cornwall. So I don't know. Just it went this way and took a turn. Right turn, Clyde. You know, that as the expression goes, and that's a thing. Oh no, not everybody's gonna be happy with what the polls end up landing on. Let's end this poll. Let's finish it off. And what did it end up at? So Clydesters is the direction it went. Okay, so you guys are all the Clydesters apparently. Self-named. I let you guys choose this one. That's it's on you. And perhaps in 4 years we'll have another election. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. People are happy and some people are not happy. It's a thing. It's the way it goes. It's wow. That's absolutely the thing. I'm gonna show this clip because this is the clip from the thumbnail, of course. Now this is an old clip, but this is obviously gonna set the stage for what's happening tonight. I've been looking forward to this. So let's start with the video, and but anyway, let this one play out, as it were. I'm gonna keep the chat on there. You might get distracted by this a little bit.
Received a quarter.
Let's go right to the
Prime Minister's Arrive scam is now flailing out of control. Today, revelations from a Joël Denis Bellevance that one Arrive scan company received $250 million in contracts. Let's get this straight. It's a company with 4 employees, headquartered in the basement of a tiny cottage. They got IT contracts even though they admit they do no IT work.
Insane.
$250 million. WTF.
Here, here. I'm going to ask the honourable opposition leader, please, to withdraw that comment and to use parliamentary language, please.
WTF.
Where's the fun?
Oh, nails it. And that was the moment when a lot of Canadians started paying attention to this story. And this was a story that, well, I mean, what do you even say to this? It's an absurd story. It's the story that is turning out to be the norm of what's happening in Canada, what people, where this has been going. One last super chat before we get in with our guest here. Diane Sylvain. Holy cow, I'm terrible with names. With the $5 super chat. Clyde, it could be a new political party, the Clydesters in BC. P.S. My last name is French, so you are welcome to just say Diane. Love you, bro. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna say Diane from now on, and that's where I'm gonna let that one lie. But I don't know if my guests tonight need much introduction at all. Well, you guys know them from the amazing coverage that they've been doing of this Arrive scam that's been going on in Ottawa, and the committees that we have all been seeing little clips here and there of. Well, they've been doing amazing coverage, digging deep, and telling us the real story. So without further ado, of course, welcome to Fox and Cypher. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? You can hear us okay?
Yeah, I actually have to adjust some volumes here. Okay, perfect.
Thanks for having us, Clyde.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming. I mean, you guys are killing it. You're absolutely
We've been busy.
You're killing it. And you're busier than ever right now. You're doing multiple live streams every week, and you're cracking out videos like crazy. And what's amazing is not just that the amount of content, but the quality of content that you've been putting out in regards to what's going on with this Arrive Can thing. Now, I just want to say for anybody who's joining in just now, maybe don't know your channel, or they're watching this video as it's published afterwards, not in the live format. You guys, you're anonymous characters. You don't show your faces. Would you give a little bit of a sum up for people that maybe are just getting to know who you are?
Sure. So we are a husband and wife team. We started this channel back on January 15th of last year, and we were just fed up with where the government was going, where the ideology was just infesting every part of society. We were seeing it in the schools, we were seeing it in the government, we were seeing it in the professions. And we took a hard look at each other and at our young son, and we said we could sit here and just hope other people are going to solve these problems for us and speak out, or we could look at doing something. And we just decided that we couldn't look back 20 years from now and not be able to say we did every single thing that we possibly could to fight against this. And we didn't know how it would go. We were hoping for maybe 1,000 people by the end of the first year, and
you smashed that.
Underestimated it.
Yeah, you guys absolutely smashed that.
But it's interesting because I have a lot of experience that can really be brought to bear on this. And Fox, even though she's a stay-at-home mom, she brings just a very, very grounded perspective that complements mine, because she's asking the questions that the average Canadian is asking. And a lot of times I'm able to either extract the answer, or we're able to find those answers just through our resourcefulness and the quote unquote resources that we have. And eventually, when we reveal our identities, it's going to make a lot of sense to people. So but that's not going to be for a while yet. We don't show our identities to protect our family. And I think if people didn't understand before, look at Bill C-63, and that's all you need to do to know to understand. And I know you covered a bit of. I think all the channels have covered it, just because it's so serious, and even the media, the mainstream media, is railing against that. So that's why we don't show our identities yet. So we need some assurances and some stability in order for us to be comfortable with that. Wouldn't you say, Fox?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, I mean, I think we learned this early on with the absolutely ridiculous 3D puppets that we had that were super glitchy and moved kind of funny all the time. It doesn't really matter what you look like, as long as what you're saying is the truth. That's what matters.
Absolutely. And what's amazing is just how knowledgeable you guys are actually when it comes to the fundamentals of what you're actually commenting on. So, for example, when I want to talk about Bill C-63, for example, I'm getting a hold of guys like Jeff Rath, who's a lawyer in Alberta, and he knows this stuff. I'm talking to people, legal scholars, things like that. You guys are very knowledgeable when it comes to procedures, Parliament, how the government works. It's really extraordinary what you guys are putting together.
Well, it's just part of, you know, the path that I've taken in life. I've worked in a lot of different industries. I've worked with contract management. I've worked with, you know, having to understand legislation and really help businesses change their operations to accommodate legislation that's come out from the government. So I need to understand these things, and I've ended up crossing paths with a lot of lawyers in that time, so that's the nice thing when a new piece of legislation comes out. Literally all we do is we look up the bill and we get into it and I start running through the bill.
And I think a lot of it is natural curiosity as well. You know, when we started watching House of Commons videos and things like that, we'd be like, oh, why did they do that? Well, let's find out.
Right.
Like, for example, when Fergus was appointed the Speaker of the House, and you saw Justin Trudeau on one side and Pierre Poilievre on the other side, just like dragging him up to the chair. We're like, well, that's weird. Why does that happen? And there's like this long-standing tradition that dates back centuries.
Oh, really? Okay, you brought it up, so tell me why. I'm curious.
Yeah, that's it. I guess like back in the day, the Speaker of the House was like his job was to go to the king. So if they decided something in the House and the Speaker went to the king and the king didn't like it, well, let's just say he might lose his head.
Long. So the Speaker would always resist being appointed by the people because he knew what the potential consequences were. He could actually, you know, if the king really disagreed with him, he would lose his head and then they'd have to appoint another speaker. So now it's just tradition that they kind of fake that the speaker is being appointed to the House.
There is some real risk though being appointed the speaker nowadays. Holy cow. You'll get thrown under the bus probably, right? In most cases, as we saw with Anthony Rota. And by the way, what's happened to him? He's just faded off into the night.
He is faded. Go ahead, Fox.
Oh, he's an MP. Like, he's retained his seat, but he's not speaker anymore. So that means he took a pay cut. And he's also said that he will not be running for re-election. So whenever an election is called, they will choose someone else from the Liberal Party to run for his seat.
And I think this is a real case of the grass is always greener, right? Like there were definitely cases where you could point to some of Rota's rulings in the House and saying, oh, well, you know, that's clear bias. But when you contrast that to Fergus, you know,
night and day.
Yeah, and at least Rota was honorable. And yes, he's a liberal. Yes, he made some biased decisions, but you at least got the sense that he was trying to be objective, and he was trying to do his job for the good of Canada. Heck, he went against Trudeau in trying to get the documentation for the Winnipeg lab scandal, and was sued by the Liberals when he was trying to actually get that documentation. So that should tell you everything that you need to know about Anthony Rota.
I'm so curious of why he fell on that sword. I just don't see it. I don't see why he did that. It's pretty obvious at this point now that the memos have gotten out of the or the emails of the invite to the for anyone who's just maybe doesn't know this story. So Anthony Rota took the fall for inviting a Waffen SS soldier to the Parliament, and then everybody stood up and did a standing ovation for a bad guy, one of the bad guys from WW2. It's insane that this is something that happened. And of course, as he was reading it out, you
could tell there was an oh no moment.
Right? He totally like got a moment where he's like, and this guy, he fought against the Russians in World War II, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm completely sold on, the fact that it wasn't him. Just and based on his reaction.
You almost wonder, was this a setup? because he was invited by Trudeau's office, wasn't invited by Rhoda like everyone kind of made it seem.
Right.
And then who follows Rhoda? The quote unquote first black speaker.
I don't
Like,
know if it was on like did he intentionally wanted to make international headlines for saluting a clinkety clank funny mustache follower?
hey, he's done crazier stuff.
Well, we had heard from an insider that Chris D'Entremont was the natural pick for speaker in Rhoda's place. And I guess the Liberal Party really, really pushed for Fergus to be the speaker.
Yeah,
even though he had no previous experience, like as chair of a committee or anything like that, that would have demonstrated his nonpartisanship.
yeah, and that's the thing, because when you, in order to really, I would say, earn the trust of people to be Speaker of the House, you really have to display nonpartisanship. Yes, you belong to a party, but you have to display the ability to be nonpartisan, and typically that starts when you're the chair of a committee, because you have to be fair, you have to be nonpartisan in your rulings, no matter what the party is parties are actually doing.
Right.
And then a natural step would then to be a deputy speaker, because you are essentially in training to be the Speaker of the House. So it was kind of a slap in the face to Chris D'Entremont, who is an excellent speaker and is fair. To everybody who may or may not know, recall that he threw out a Conservative from the House for calling the Prime Minister a liar, not because it was against the Prime Minister, but because those are the rules of the House. You cannot use the word liar in the House. And so Chris D'Entremont, who is a Conservative, threw out a Conservative who is in the House. So that just shows you that he's able to put his partisan loyalties aside and execute the rules. No matter if he agrees with them or not, those are the rules. The problem is Fergus blatantly doesn't do that, and it's demonstrated on a day-to-day basis.
Well, Fergus, he had that grandstand where he got up and he talked about the rules for about an hour, wasn't it?
Right?
Yes.
When he wasn't allowed to.
Well, we actually wrote a letter to the leader of all of the parties and Peter Julian, because he was kind of heading that report in committee. And we wrote it as ourselves, like as our natural human names, so we can't share it, but
yeah,
we did write them all, including the block, and we had a friend help us translate, just because we wanted them to know how serious it is for Canadians to have a speaker who is biased towards one party.
Yeah, so
yeah, that's really it shouldn't go that, but I mean, this is the Liberal government that we have today. It's really no surprise. Now I'm going to get into some of these super chats, and then I want to talk about what you guys have been uncovering. And I've been busy because I've been doing my own stories.
Absolutely.
So, I didn't catch your live stream last night, so there's apparently some bombshells that have come out, and we're going to get into that. Let me just make sure I'm catching up to the comments. Where where were we? Jenny P with a 279 super chat says, thank you for all that you do. A big long ooh at the end. Gary Krell with a $50 super chat. Howdy, my fellow Clydesters and Clydettes. Oh, that's good.
That's a good one.
Adding some to that. Trish Prue with a $5 super chat. Our Northern Perspective Clydesters. Inquiring minds want to know. Are you guys Clydesters? Apparently, they've come up with this new name for the fan base.
I actually want to call a vote of non-confidence on Clydesters and launch a coalition government between Clyde Nation and the Clydesdales, and then we'll have a kind of we'll have an NDP Liberal thing going.
It's a soft coup of the fan
Clyde
base.
Nation, Clydesdales. There you go.
That's too real. Oh, that's terrifying. Wesley Snipes with a $5 super chat. Love WTF in government. Yeah, love the WTF. Leo Orchard with a $5 super chat. Clyde, Fox, and Cypher, 3 very different styles, but 3 staunch freedom fighters. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say.
Thank you.
Dr. Roscoe Pico for $5 says, all 3 of you guys are awesome. Have a great weekend. 20 plus here in Vancouver this weekend. and have a great time in Japan, Clyde. It'll be even warmer in Japan than 20 plus. I'm looking forward to that. It was unbelievable. It was a sunny day today. What was it like or do you even disclose what part of the planet you're on?
We're in Ontario, somewhere in Ontario.
Yeah, so it was okay. Actually, I don't even think I made it outside today.
I did. It was
so
sunny.
busy.
It was sunny.
Yeah, actually, I didn't get to leave the house. The plan was to leave the house.
No,
but...
you did, because we took our little boy out, right?
Oh, right. Yes. Wow.
All our days are like bleeding.
When you do 8 hours of live streaming in 2
Oh,
nights, it really wears on your brain.
I know. Sometimes I forget what day of the week it is, because Fridays are kind of that moment where I'm like, oh, I've got a live stream tonight. You know, it's like, all right, all right. At least tomorrow's off, right? It's one of those. I got a couple more here. Next for Cup with the $5 says, to us, your identities will always be Cypher and Fox. I think that's the way it's going to go for a long time. Even when you guys reveal who you are, it's going to be...
We're still going to call each other Cypher and Fox.
Yeah, it will be weird to call you anything else, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
This is one of those. Steve's Hyde with a $5 super chat. When the guy got kicked out, I thought the word he wasn't allowed to say was minions. And not liar, LOL.
No, it was lies. It was lies.
Yeah, you can't call somebody a liar. You can't say they're lying. You can't accuse them of like having said lies. Yeah, you're just not allowed to.
You're allowed to say falsehoods, just not lies.
Yeah.
You're allowed to say, this guy utters falsehoods. He's a falsehood utterance person. I don't know. It's just awful demeanor that they actually... It's crazy because question period... It's a good reason why they call it question period. There's no answers the whole time. That's right. There are no answers. It's just a moment for people to have their schmarmy take and then post it on the internet. I mean, that really seems like the only purpose for it these days.
It makes you wonder what question period achieved before social media.
Well, and we've gone back and watched some of the Harper question period, and
they were wild.
I mean, they would call each other names and grandstand and stuff, but the question would get answered.
Oh.
Yeah, it would get answered. And if you if you really want to go back, go into the 90s, and our boy, what was his name again?
Daryl Stinson.
Yeah,
he was ready to like throw down and beat somebody up
and all this stuff.
Oh yeah, he's the guy. The guy called him a racist, and he like lost it.
And the speaker was just like, "Order, please."
I wish I had that clip on hand because it's a funny one. It's a really funny one.
We actually did it. Someone posted on X the one time, and we're just like, okay, we got to do a quick one. So we did like a 6-minute reaction to that for people who may not have seen it, and so we posted that. And
is it on YouTube? I'll pull it up. What's his name?
Daryl Stinson. And he like challenged the other guy to a fight. Should be able to find just Daryl Stinson.
Yeah, maybe. It's such a funny clip.
Yeah, MP Daryl Stinson erupts.
I've got it. The national. Hold on. Or you send me the link. I got it. I've got it. Let's get this one up because this is just too funny.
I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. We have a system set up. You know what? And I was asked this question. And I've had this. I've been branded a cold-hearted redneck over this question.
I can handle it. That's fine.
Oh, yeah, I hear extremists from over there. Sure, it's extremists to worry about the taxpayer in this country. It's extremists to worry about the livelihood and the safety of my mother. Hey, it's extremists. That's right. You keep it up.
Watch his face.
That's what you call extremist. Shame on you. I hope your parents give you a talking to when you get home. That's all I can say. You have no more thought for them.
For shame.
Now, I hear the word racist from that side. Do you have the fortitude or the gonads to stand up and come across here and say that to me, you son of a bitch? Come on.
Daryl, come on.
Order.
Yes. Oh man, that is too funny. Oh, does it go on?
Order, please. Order, please.
Order, please. Order, please. Order, please.
Yeah, you're an embarrassment.
Order, please. Thanks.
Listen to what the
Sorry
speaker
to have this
says.
happen. Order, please.
You don't know parliamentary language or anything like that. Listen.
Order, please. I think honourable members know that sometimes tempers flare in debate, but I think if the honourable member would continue to engage in verbal sparring rather than the other sort, I think we'd all be better off. I think that's true throughout the House, and I invite the honourable member, if he wishes to resume his remarks, to do so.
Please don't beat the crap out of each other. Just continue swearing at each other. That would be preferable.
That's unbelievable.
Contrast that to Fergus and talking about, oh, we want to practice parliamentary decorum in the House here. I'm like, you son of a bitch!
I'd prefer that to the smarminess we see now. Oh, come on.
Can you imagine if Facebook existed back then?
Oh, it would be a different world today if that was the case.
Anyway, we sometimes invoke our inner Daryl Stinson on our videos now. So
that's hilarious. The super chats just keep rolling in. I'm going to hit a couple of more of these. Mr. Excuses with $2 says David Menzies was arrested again. I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. Dan Demand 966 with $5 says, okay, Cypher, can you please show the Clydesters the champagne voice? They need a real lawyer, he says.
Hold on, let me shut the door. Hold on. No, it's not shut.
We will take no lessons from the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. I'm a lawyer.
Is that the Daryl Stenson thing?
No, that's champagne.
Midget. Oh, the midget. Right.
Francois Philippe Champagne. I talk so loud because I am so short and I am kind of French, but I will take no lessons from anyone. And when he was hauled into committee, he kept telling the Conservatives what a good lawyer he was.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was bizarre.
Because that's what good lawyers do. They brag about being, instead of just showing that they're good lawyers.
Exactly. He was being questioned by a Crown prosecutor. He was being questioned by, I think, a litigation lawyer in Michael Cooper, and he's like, "We are both lawyers, and we so understand you should be a lawyer. You spend a lot. I'm a good lawyer." Like, shut up.
Yeah, wasn't he telling Cooper that he should be a lawyer? And we're like, Cooper is a lawyer, dude.
Aren't they? So they like pretty much all of them lawyers?
You'd be surprised how many are not, but there is a good number of them that are. There's a good number of them. Michael Barrett is not a lawyer, believe it or not, even though he's on point with his questions.
He knows a lot of stuff.
You believe he was a lawyer. Yeah.
I just like Larry Brock. I assumed he's a lawyer.
Oh yeah, he's a former Crown prosecutor.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Like he's a very experienced lawyer.
And anyone who he wants to intimidate, he reminds them he's a former Crown prosecutor.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was trying to get to the end of these super chats. I've got a couple of more here. Diane for 20 says, hey, Clyde, Cypher, and Fox, I love how these two YouTube communities are joined in loving Canada and supporting one another. After the live streams, this comes to mind. We will take no lessons from liars, she says. Going on with the same thing. Christian Tessier with $5 says, did Bill S210 pave the way for C63, and how do they plan on enforcing S210 or C63 without digital ID?
So do you know what S210 is, Clyde?
I've heard S210. Is that the one that's supposed to be to bring in digital ID for viewing pornography on the internet?
Not digital ID per se, but
a form of showing proof.
They want to validate they want to verify your age, and
right.
The problem with that is the bill doesn't get into specifics of how they would do that, so that becomes a big problem.
You think that would be the first facet of the bill, like
right.
This is what we're trying to achieve, and this is how we're going to try to achieve it.
Right, and it's a conservative Senate bill, and we have given our opinion. We are completely against this bill, despite it being a conservative bill,
Yeah.
because again, it's government overreach into the parent's role in the home, and like, what are you gonna? How are you gonna prevent people from watching DVDs with potential, you know, parental or R-rated content and adult content? Like, how are you going to start asking people to verify their age when buying movies at the video store? Like, you know, it and this branches off into so many different problematic areas. Again, it comes down to, you cannot regulate the internet, because these people that are thinking of these laws, they are so behind in technology. The internet is not, you know, they view the internet as one medium. And as you know, the internet is every medium all at once. And you can't apply a broad brushstroke to that. And yeah, the internet is scary. It is filthy. It is filled with terrible people, but it is also filled with the brightest and most beautiful creations that ever, you know, come out of, you know, humanity, in my opinion. And it just depends on where you walk. It's just like you go into the real world. You know the places to stay away from, and you know the places that are safe and that you want to go to. So, and how do we manage that? Well, you have adults that are guiding their kids, and they teach them, this is where you go and this is where you don't go. And you can start off by, don't be giving your kids a cell phone when they're 8 years old.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's a really good step in the right direction right there.
And we've talked about a lot on our channel about the digital footprint. So our son, when he entered kindergarten, they said, we want to create a Teams account for him. And I said, no way, that is not happening. And they said, why? I said, because you're not going to be creating a digital footprint for my son when he's 5 years old. We've posted no pictures of him on social media, because all of these people, remember, the iPhone only came out about 14 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And people don't understand yet the impact of putting all of their kids' lives on social media for all to see. The issue that parents that have done that are starting to find out is that when their kids come home and they're complaining to them about being bullied, they're realizing that that's continuing on, because all these kids are finding all this material about that same kid that you've been posting for 14 years to then bully them between all of their friends on their social media circles, and they can do nothing about it.
Yeah, they're just adding more fuel to it by adding their kid's profile online.
Right.
That's awful.
And so society does not know what the impact is of social media on kids' lives yet, because it's only about a couple of years from now that we're going to be finding out what these adults actually are turning into as a result of being raised through the first generation of social media. Nobody knows the long-term impact of this, but it's dangerous. It really, really is.
Well, look at what social media has done to celebrities, for example.
Celebrities, young girls, young boys, the dating market, marriage. It has completely transformed, and in my opinion is destroying society.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that. It's so weird, because I don't behave like maybe I wasn't mesmerized by social media like other people have been. But when I go on Twitter, for example, and I reply to people that are being rude to me, I'll reply just like I would reply to them to their face.
Right.
And I put a conscious effort into doing it that way, because I've always likened Twitter to like trying to have an intellectual conversation with an angry chihuahua behind a chain link fence. You know, like you're wasting your time most of the time. You would be, but every once in a while you'll meet one of the neighbors, and you're like, oh, howdy, you know, and you'll have a conversation behind that chain link fence. You know what I mean? And
there's some psychology behind it where, I mean, through the computer screen, you don't get that one-on-one face-to-face interaction that you would in person. So, I mean, if you think of like the worst comment that you've ever said on social media to somebody, you wouldn't say that to somebody's face, because you could see the anguish in their face.
Well, and the thing is your brain actually doesn't even realize that you're speaking to a person. Even you kind of you consciously know that you are, subconsciously your brain actually isn't registering it. So you end up saying things because it's safe. There is no immediate threat that is coming back at you.
Yeah, you don't get that feedback. Again, like if you said something horrible to somebody, you would see it in their face. Maybe they'd start to cry. Maybe they turn red. You don't get that feedback when you're doing it through the internet.
And it's a result of you not having the fight or flight response when you're having these interactions that you would have in person. So to the point, you're on the street and you go up to some random person and start calling them names. Something's probably going to happen.
You'll be spitting chiclets.
Yeah. And hoping you're on a good dental plan.
Yeah.
So you don't do it. But when you're behind a computer screen, there is no retribution there. So there literally is no fight or flight response. And Twitter is terrible for it. Twitter is actually designed to invoke the most discreet and intense reactions from people as possible because of the low character limit. So you have to get your point across very, very succinctly. And what ends up happening is people are just, all of the politeness goes out because you don't have room. You don't have any room for politeness. It's just, here's the message, deal with it.
Well, when you say design, you're inferring that it's meant to be that way. Like it's meant to be so vitriolic. I
believe it was.
You think it was actually, that was the design, that was the plan. Let's get everybody vitriolic and it'll.
Well, because what it does is it gets the endorphins going, and the adrenaline going, and so it gives you almost like that casino reward. And plus, Twitter it's much more fast paced than Facebook is. Facebook is kind of like a blog, if you will. You put longer posts there, people have longer responses, whereas Twitter is literally ding 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 ding, and it's that whole casino reward system that actually influences your brain as a result of operant conditioning, and especially
maybe that's why I don't fall for it.
That's a good idea.
You know what's funny is like when I turned 19, I was in Windsor, Ontario. That's where I grew up. And they had a casino. It was like everybody talked about it. We're going to the casino. We're doing this. Casino is a big thing, right? And so I was like, I turned 19. It was my birthday. I had my ID ready, and I walk into the casino. I was all excited, and I bought a token for $5 to put in a slot machine, and ka-chunk, snake eyes or whatever you call it. I lost. And I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. Let's go.
Why do people come in here?
Yeah, I was not excited by it at all. And yeah, I really don't go to casinos. There's a casino in my town here, and I don't go to it.
Yeah. If we were ever go to Vegas, wouldn't go there for the casinos. Would go over there for the shows.
Oh heck yeah! I go. I really love Penn and Teller. I'd go see Penn and Teller.
Oh yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely. There's a lot of cool things to see in Vegas that's not gambling. Of course, I'm not very, you would be less welcome there if you're not just blowing all your money on that.
Anyway, to circle right back around to S210. So S210 is kind of a competing bill to C63. The one positive thing I will say about S210 is it is very clear on who it is targeting and trying to protect, which is kids and kids only.
Right.
But the problem is you are opening people up to a myriad of privacy breaches. And as a result of those privacy breaches, you end up saying to all of the hackers and ransomware people out there, hey, this is going to be the biggest target on the internet for you. Just go to the top adult content sites and try and get the data that is going to be passed inevitably from the adult content site to the government.
I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
And you think of these people that, everyone has their fetishes, however strange they are, it's how the world works. So imagine these people that are in professional positions, they're leaders in their community, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, so-and-so is has these fantasies about whatever it is.
Whatever kink or whatever weird thing they're into.
Right.
And use that
to destroy their career and their family.
We could blackmail people with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you could destroy people's lives like in an instant. And the thing is it's not if it happens, it's when,
When?
because you have the most secure, like the NSA was hacked a couple years ago.
Well,
So
City of Toronto was
City of
hacked very
Toronto was hacked.
recently. Yeah.
I was just reading a report. I didn't find enough to make a whole story out of it, but I was reading a report that the CRA was hacked in 2020, and there was a report just the other day talking about it,
Yep.
and another RCMP thing that they got hacked, and all of this information got out. And people are like, the government was saying, "Oh, you're my business account. Maybe you want to get in there and change your password."
Yeah. And in 20 I
4 years later,
think,
they're telling us this. Maybe you should change your
right?
password.
And they're supposed to by law they're supposed to tell you within 30 days.
Crazy.
And in 2019, 2020, one of the largest laboratories in Canada, Life Labs, they were hacked. A bunch of information was leaked. And right now there's one city in southern Ontario, Hamilton. They're still shut down. They've been shut down for like 3 weeks. And allegedly they didn't take any backups of any of their systems. So they are rebuilding everything from scratch.
Oh no.
So you can't even pay your taxes.
So
They've actually told everybody stop paying their taxes.
so they got hit with what, with ransomware, and then they didn't buy the ransom,
Yep.
and then their stuff
So,
got
yeah.
Yep.
wiped.
Yeah.
Brutal. For people who don't know what that is, ransomware, they'll basically hack in, change all your passwords, make it so you can't access your information, and then they
They'll
hold it.
encrypt everything.
Yeah, and then they hold it for ransom. You pay, and then they
They give you the key to unlock it and get access to your stuff.
Hopefully they give you the key.
Well, that's the funny thing. They actually do, because if they never did it, then no one would ever pay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
That's a good point.
And they usually ask for like quote unquote low amounts because they want you to pay it. And they know it's going to be less to pay the ransomware than it will be to try to either like rebuild from ground up, restore from backup. Like it's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of IT professionals' time to do that. So some companies will just pay the ransom.
And
Supply and demand curve. It's,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
economics. It's all
Is that nuts?
It is nuts.
And the most I think frustrating part about all this is almost every single ransomware attack was not initiated by a person. It's just automated bots that go out, and if they catch you, and then it calls home. That's when the people get involved.
Yeah, they did sick kids not that long ago in Toronto.
Yeah,
and
a ransom group said, "We're sorry,"
because it was a children's hospital, so they restored everything.
so they gave them the key.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's brutal. Oh man, is that brutal? The cyber world is just ruthless. It really is.
Yeah. Yep. And it's always 3 steps ahead.
Yeah, and the government is basically saying, "Hey, why don't we make another way that people can get your info and scam you and threaten you, these kinds of
Well,
things."
this is where the government is so naive, because there are different levels of the World Wide Web. So all that's going to happen is everyone's going to it'll just be another network that stood up on the same side. People are going to say screw you, or
They'll use a VPN.
Or Facebook and the social media companies are going to say, Canada, all right, fine, we've had it, we're out, and now we're China. And then Canada has no access to Facebook, no access to Twitter, no access to any of the top social media sites.
How do we see it not going that way if this stuff passes and goes through? Because
Well, here's the nice thing: C63 will never pass.
Yes, but so it's the inch by inch, and then all at once kind of thing. You know what I mean?
This is where Canadians it's really good that I would say record amounts of Canadians are paying attention to politics now, which is good, and it's through all of the efforts of all of the channels. And Canadians need to continue to pay attention to politics, even more so after the Conservatives are voted in, because the one thing you don't want is a massive majority government in power and everybody saying, okay, we've done it, everybody, now let's look away. That's not what you want to have happen.
No.
You want everybody to be paying attention. So it's very important, and we need to be very aware of the legislation that is coming out from each government. the impact that it has. And this is why committee is so important. And we need to be continuing to ask industry experts and professionals to continue to step up, to write their briefs, to go and testify at committee, not just for their voice to be heard, but for Canadians to hear their voice to be heard and understand why it's a problem, and understand, that there is good legislation and there's bad legislation. I think the main problem with what's going on in the internet is the laws that we have don't support, they're either not enforced or they're not up to date to reflect the internet. You don't want to regulate the internet, but you want to punish the people that are actually committing crimes that match current offenses within the legislation.
Right. So my understanding of Canadian law when it comes to the internet is we largely essentially just follow the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, which is actually a US piece of legislation, but it was drafted, it's been brought into law, and everybody follows it. And like, we're not the only countries to just go, okay, we'll just accept that as like the legal groundwork or framework for this.
Yeah, most countries, like, they're if C63 were to pass, we would be the first company outside of, say, China and North Korea to actually take such drastic steps to regulate the internet in such a way. Because here's the thing, the inevitable follow through from that is, all right, so if I say something mean to somebody on the internet, then I can be jailed for life. So does that mean if I say something mean to somebody in a Starbucks, I can also be jailed for life? What's the difference? And this is where it gets very, very scary, very, very quickly. Because again, what's the difference if I'm typing it or saying it? Because you could also argue that if two kids are playing Call of Duty and one says something very offensive to the other one, perpetuating hate, what's the difference? You're on the internet and you're making a verbal comment that is technically violating a part of Bill C-63, so you could be jailed for life. What's the difference now if you're saying it in person versus over a headset?
Right. And well, for people who don't know, Call of Duty lobbies are like the most toxic place on the internet. It's like,
yes, they are.
You're gonna hear all the things. You'll hear all the things that people are not allowed to say, and that's why they say it. It's not because they actually like think these things, or I mean, I'm generalizing, right? But for the most part, kids that are in these lobbies, they're just shouting all the worst obscenities, and the worst obscenities are the ones that we're told are the worst obscenities. And if you get banned for it, it makes it more effective in saying it.
Yeah, and this is why parents need to play an active role. And in a way, there is some blame that can be put on parents right now, but there's a good argument for blame not to be put on parents, because 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, parents were able to actually have the proper oversight over their kids. Why? Because both parents didn't have to work in order to survive.
Yeah.
You typically had one parent staying at home and looking after the kids and, guiding them, nurturing them, teaching them. And that's impossible.
Well, and as a mom, that was your job, was to raise the family. And the way you would know you were doing a good job was the other moms would criticize you, at church or at the park with your kids. Like, they would criticize you. Oh, well, little Johnny's being a little brat. Why are you letting your kid do that? Stuff like that,
Right.
Yeah. And now the parents come home, they're so exhausted, and all they want is, oh my God, my 5-year-old is just having a tantrum. Okay, here's your game. Just please leave mommy alone. Leave daddy alone for like an hour.
Awful.
Please just leave us. Because
I know the feeling though. Like, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
You're just like,
and on some level, parents know that it's not right, but and nobody's blaming them for it. But again, you look at what has been happening within this country to create those conditions, and that's the root cause of all of this, and that's what we need to really be focusing on. We need to enable parents to get back to that, to have that proper oversight, and give them tools, not legislation. Give them tools to be able to help them to provide a safe environment for their kids. You don't legislate that. You empower people to be able to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. The legislation, and on top of that, we have the government coming in and spending all this money on things that are supposed to be for parents. You know, the $10 a day daycare that's actually bankrupting daycares all over Canada.
And making the daycare situation 10 times worse because those spots are now no longer available.
Yeah, and people are on waiting lists to get into daycares. Why are they sending their kids to daycare in the first place? Well, because they have to work.
Right.
And it's crazy because the toilet bowl, right? We're spiraling down the toilet bowl in this because the government spends all this money to provide a service that you wouldn't otherwise need if you didn't have to go to work, but we have to go to work because the money's worthless because the government keeps spending it. And it's like, well, who's the problem here?
And then you end up saying, well, okay, so now Canadians across the board don't have enough money anymore. So now let's look at universal basic income. And now they're completely reliant on the government. And, you know, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
If UBI passes, the Canadian dollar is done that day.
Well, the country's done. The labor market's done. Everything's done. We had the UBI experiment. It was called CERB.
Yes.
That's what the experiment was. And what happened? We had the biggest labor shortage in recent memory.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Lots of people, they're like, you're going to pay me to do Call of Duty? I think the interesting statistic with that. I mean, I don't know if it's an actual statistic or just an anomaly. But during the pandemic was a huge surge in people becoming online video game streamers.
Yep, because that's I know people who did that because that was their only way to make money.
Unbelievable. Or just they had the time to, because most people otherwise would be at work. They'd be doing other things, more productive things, in my opinion. But I mean, it is a thing. Crazy. I mean, we could go down all these paths.
So that was a hell of a super chat.
That was a hell of a super chat, and I was trying to get to the bottom of all of those super chats. Hold on, let me try to go through a few of them. I missed a couple. Vesper saying Darmok and Jalad on the ocean. I don't even know what that means.
It's a Star Trek reference.
That would be why I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
So what it is it's actually it's a Star Trekian spin off of the ancient myth of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, where they ended up, you know, fighting as fierce enemies, and by the end of it, they came to respect each other and walked away as friends. So in the Star Trek universe, I'll try and sum up an hour episode in 2 seconds.
Answer it like a Jeopardy question.
You have Captain Picard meeting an alien race, and the alien race only speaks in metaphors. Now the problem is,
so he's a Newfie.
Yeah, there you go. And you have you hear them translated in English, but they'll say things like Darmok and Jalad in the ocean. You're like, okay, I understand the individual words. I have no idea what you're talking about. But the metaphor is supposed to invoke an image of what they mean. So, for example, one of the phrases they say is Temba, his arms wide. What that means is there's a guy named Temba, and he's opening his arms in gratitude. So he's saying thank you. That's what that metaphor would mean. But the problem is, and this is what they learned in the episode, you actually have to know who the hell Temba is and what the hell the circumstance actually is. So in the episode, Picard and this alien guy, they go onto this planet, and they actually are forced to learn how to communicate with each other because they're facing this monster. And that was actually at the core of the legend of or the core of the metaphor that they used initially, which is Darmok and Jalad on the ocean. So basically, Picard was Darmok, the other guy was Jalad, and in the end, because they learned to communicate, they were able to quote unquote leave as friends, and that's what that really means. So so you come as strangers, you struggle together, and then you become friends and allies throughout that.
That was a hell of a super chat. Thank you so much, Vesper Digital.
No more super chats from Vesper Digital.
Oh, holy cow. Wow. All right. Mike St. John, John? I don't know how, if I'm pronouncing St. John, Mike St. John. For $5 says, best 34th anniversary president is being here with all three of my heroes. Well, am I a hero? Wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Holy cow. That's fantastic.
Does it still throw you, Clyde? Because it still throws us when people.
It throws me. It does.
Yeah, like it's very humbling, and I never get used to it, and Fox never gets used to it.
No, because I'm just like, I'm just a housewife.
You guys are doing.
And you're probably like, I'm just a mechanic.
I am. I'm just a grease monkey. I should do that. I should make a shirt that says the grease monkey philosopher. I should get in that one. Yutaka for $2 says every Friday night we are in Clydestan. So that's we got another one.
Oh,
hi, and he says hi Maru. He's got the 0, which is long story. Japanese woke town thing, and with the fox. So saying hi to you guys.
Awesome,
Evidently.
thank you.
Where else are we? Pandemonium with $5. Oh wow. Stinson sounds just like Jim Jordan from the U.S. Senate. Oh, I didn't know that. Kind of.
He kind of sounds like Jordan. Yeah, he kind of looks like him too.
That's funny.
But Stinson definitely has more of the Eastern Canada accent.
I gotta find where I was because I skipped over a few and then I realized that I did. Okay, Chris B with the 279 says, why is no party refusing the pay increase on April 1st? I would like to see why they are all voting for it. Are the Conservatives voting against it?
They don't have a choice. It's already been voted on. It was voted on years ago.
Yeah, so I went into
automatic.
this on our live stream last night. So what happened was in 2005, in order to kind of take the politics out of the MP pay raises, they decided that MPs would get a raise every year, and it would be based on these certain factors that were like in the public and private markets, so that they would have absolutely no control over what they got. And it would happen every year on April 1st. When Harper was in power for 3 years, he put in legislation that the MPs would not get their raises those 3 years. And that was during the economic downturn. And once things got better, that was removed and it went back to this 2005 legislation. So the government would have to introduce legislation to stop this pay increase, which they have not. In order to stop it. Now, the MPs have no control over it. They can't like go to the HR department and be like, I don't want this on my paycheck. They're getting it whether they want it or not because of this bill that was created in 2005.
Yeah, so we're going to be chatting with our MP at some point, and we're going to be suggesting that they may want to, like what we had suggested is that the Conservative kind of take the delta and that increase and pool it together and or donate it to like one of their local food banks in their ridings. It's not much, but it would be a good gesture in terms of we're not going to be accepting this increase, and we're going to funnel it back to the Canadian taxpayers. So
it'd be great to have a bill where they create a metric where, based on how much we owe in our debt and how much we how well the economy is doing, whether their pay actually goes down. So if the country's gone for a shit, their pay keeps going down until the country starts going back up again. Yeah, both in debt and both in where our GDP is. And
in the private sector, we call that performance pay.
Yeah, and a pay cut. Usually just get fired in the private sector. But anyway, moving on. Pandemonium for $2 says, Larry Brock, which Rinder? Attorney General. I'm not sure what witch Rinder is. Do you know what that is?
Might be a typo.
Might be.
I'm not sure.
Larry Brock, witch Rinder, Attorney General. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so typos right over my head. Nux for Cup for $5 says
Witch Finder.
Witch Finder.
So he finds witches.
Yeah, he's on the witch hunt.
Oh,
He's on a witch.
see,
There you go.
see, right over my head. Nux for
Thank
cup
you, Money.
for $5. It says, here's a summary of last night's stream for you, Clyde. I have no knowledge of that. Right after the next one, I want to get into this. Nux for cup, another $5 says, when the Conservatives form government, we need to be their official opposition because the other parties simply won't. I agree with that.
Said.
I'm going to be, I'm on board for that. I already said this many times. I bet you a whole ton of the fan base of this channel is going to like end up not liking me a lot when I'm going after the Conservatives when they get into power, because I mean, there's no other way.
We're probably going to be slowly getting a liberal audience. Because like, that's not to say that we're going to be going for the jugular. We're going to be calling out bullshit when we see it. And if they start being hypocrites, which I hope they won't, but if they start being hypocrites, they're going to be called out. And when we go into, we're going to be following them in committee. And you better be removing C11. You better be removing C18. You better be scrapping the carbon tax, because guess what? This is all the stuff that you said that you're going to do. So
even going back to C16, the one that Jordan Peterson was railing
C16,
against.
that needs to come out too.
It's got to go. It's got to go. And
compelled speech, get that out of here.
We need a Javier Milei. That's what we need. We need a guy, a Fuela, ripping departments out. Because
I think you're going to find that. I think you're going to see a lot of the public service fired.
Good. And I'm not saying this because like I feel bad for people that have a job and they lose their job, but you know you're gonna get another job. It's gonna happen. It's just, it might be painful at first, but this is where we need to go. What I'd like to see is legislation making it so they can't add government works as part of the GDP.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would love to see that happen, and I would love to see a thing where they make legislation where the CPI numbers, when they're any time that they change what the basket of goods are, that it has to be published.
Yeah. They should. Why would the consumers not be informed of what the about the consumer price index changes? Like, why would they not?
Most people don't know this. That like, okay, they compare Canadian inflation to American inflation, not knowing that the Canadian government's basket of goods that they measure against inflation is different than the United States basket of goods. Totally different thing.
I think that's, Clyde, I think that's because high schools don't teach people about home economics anymore. They teach people about gender ideology as a replacement. I think that's probably one of the reasons why people don't know even about the consumer price index.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, just people's economic illiteracy. It's insane. Now, okay, we've talked about a lot of things. I want to get into what you guys have been covering so much of recently. I'm sure this might have been a fun little break to get away from it for a minute. But for sure, like the main reason why I've invited you guys on is because you guys have been doing such amazing coverage of this Arrive scam thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we with it? Like, can you bring us up to date? Is there a way to like just sum it up really quickly?
I'll try. The nuts and bolts of it is the Liberals. Every single time there's a committee hearing, the Liberals complain about how much time is being quote unquote wasted on this. And they're saying
they say it's a waste of time that we're looking into
millions
and millions and millions of dollars being embezzled in our government.
Well, what they're arguing is we're spending all of this time and all of this money around the committee table on investigating this, and the Conservatives are trying to find something and they're not finding it, despite the fact that a lot is being found. And the Auditor General's report, the Liberals voted against that. To even be done in the first place, and it only happened because the NDP voted with the Bloc and the Conservatives. So just think about if the NDP voted with the Liberals, we wouldn't have learned a lot of the stuff that has actually happened. The procurement ombudsman found a whole bunch of problems with the internal government processes. So to sum it up, there is let's focus on the two companies. So number
Well,
one,
okay, so
GC Strategy.
little bit of a, if anybody's walking in from fresh, ArriveCan was an app that the government made to track people that were coming in from foreign countries. Anyone who arrived in Canada had to put this app on their phone, which was invasive, and it caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. People ended up with fines and being put into quarantine mistakenly because the app was a piece of crap. And
10,200 people.
Right, all these people suffering, and there's going to be lawsuits after lawsuits over this stuff. But the government was very hasty and very stringent on this, and this was the last straw for a lot of Canadians, and largely the reason why the convoy started and went to Ottawa, the Freedom Convoy. That was like the last straw for the truckers. So this was something that the government, Trudeau's government, really stringently pushed on people, and then we find out all this time later that it cost way too much money, and then the investigation started. So I guess we could take it from that point.
Yeah, so the original app, it was estimated that it was going to cost $80,000. Now that would have been too low, but it ended up costing a total of 750 times that amount to be at least $60 million, because one of the issues with the Auditor General's report is she said that she has never seen a worse documented project in all of her audits in her entire career. There's just missing documentation, missing governance, missing everything. So she said it's 60 million, maybe. It could be more, could be less, could be more. And one of the other damning things that she found is that on one of the big GC Strategies contracts, she found that GC Strategies actually worked with someone inside of CBSA to create the requirements for the request for proposal that they were actually going to bid on. So the Auditor General found that there was collusion between a vendor and the government to create the RFP that they were going to bid on, so that only GC Strategies could possibly win the contract.
Right. So the people that are bidding on these contracts, they should have no knowledge of
correct
of any of this stuff.
Yeah, so it would be like you, Clyde, applying to a job somewhere and you saying to the person whose company you're applying to, okay, let's write this together. It needs to be somebody who has skills as a mechanic, somebody who's bilingual English, Japanese.
And someone who has a YouTube channel called Clyde Do Something.
So you're describing yourself, right?
But seriously, that's what
That's
happened.
what they did. And nobody else could apply for it because it was tailor-made for them, by them.
And you're right to laugh, because it is just ridiculous. And that's what happened. So so that's just one thing. And they also found that GC Strategies was given contracts where the government required them to have a security like a security process in place. They did not. 16 months later, it was like when it was found out that they didn't actually have this, the CBSA said, I guess they don't need it. We'll just amend the contract. And now they don't need a security process for that. The other thing that they were doing is so when they bid on the contract, they would say, okay, what's the maximum? CBSA said to GC Strategies, we want the most expensive resources you can give us. And you might be wondering, well, why would they do that?
Yeah.
But hear me out. So GC Strategies, what they did is they said, okay, so we have all of these resources that are, say, level 10. And CBSA said, sure, that sounds great. Then what GC Strategies did is they went and hired a bunch of, say, level 4 resources. And they invoiced CBSA for the work. GC Strategies got paid at level 10 rates, and then passed on level 4 payment to the resources. Where did the rest of that money go?
Right in their pockets, right?
Well, my theory is that GC Strategies didn't get that money. The people at CBSA got the delta.
How does that work?
So, because you have to wonder why does it benefit CBSA to rig these contracts for GC Strategies? Why? It must benefit CBSA, or it must benefit
somebody
people within the CBSA.
Yeah, somebody in there.
So why would they do that? So GC Strategy is already getting millions of dollars to get a cut off of these contracts. So, and the whole problem with this process is when the minute GC Strategy subcontracts to somebody else, the government loses visibility. They do not see what goes on from then on, from outside in terms of their oversight. So if GC Strategies then says, well, we're getting paid level 10 rates and we're going to get level 4 resources, then let's say, there's a delta of $200,000. Well, then the people in CBSA can say, you give us the difference of that, and nobody will know the difference.
Right. How hard would it be to prove that?
It could be difficult depending on if that did happen, where that money was funneled. Did it go into offshore accounts and tax havens and all of this other stuff? So,
but it sounds like a 10% for the big guy kind of thing.
Well, and this is where this is where law enforcement can get
or a quid pro quo, isn't that what they call that? Like, you get us the contract, and then
you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So this, but in general government auditing, they would never see this, and this is the auditor general couldn't see it, right? Because she needs access to bank records and all that, which the auditor general doesn't have the power to ask.
Right.
But if that only happens if it turns into a criminal investigation, which is now begun. So
right.
So it is possible.
Is that two things that are happening separately? So these committees are happening, and then also the RCMP are investigating into it?
They are separate, yes.
Okay. And what sort of transparency will it be with the RCMP investigation? I mean,
unknown at this point.
Yeah, because we saw the RCMP were investigating the SNC Lavalin thing, and then that turned out, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, though, the RCMP can use the testimony that's been given in committee because it's part of the public record.
They can. So anything presented in committee can be used as part of the RCMP case
and investigation. So, does that mean that they could get warrants based on the information that's happening in these committees?
Yeah, because for example, Christian Firth and Darren Anthony were sworn in this week. Both of them were. So if they were found to actually be lying, that would be perjury. But anything that they say that is so, for example, back in the fall when Christian Firth admitted to forging resumes, that's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah.
So the RCMP can take that as evidence because he was being questioned by the government, and that's what he put on the table. So they can take that and say, all right, well, you said this, it's on record, and what do you have to say about that? Oh, here's your silver bracelets. But what we think is happening is, and Christian Firth kind of confirmed it. He is, I think,
and Christian Firth is the owner of GC Strategies. This
one of the co-owners. Yeah.
This is two of them.
Yeah, Christian Strategies and Darren Anthony. Darren Anthony testified last night, and that was a joke. But Christian Firth is the other one. And I think Christian Firth knows that he is absolutely screwed. So he tried to say as little as possible at committee, much to the chagrin of everybody. But I think he knows that if he did say anything, he would lose whatever bargaining power that he actually have, because he knows at some point the RCMP is going to come and knock on his door. So my guess is that at some point, like, the RCMP is doing all of this background information. And from what I know about law enforcement is when they're looking at a case like this, interviewing witnesses is actually one of the last things that they do, because they're actually looking for all of the deep information to actually understand the foundation of what the case is all about. And then they start talking to the witnesses to kind of put those pieces together and link these pieces of evidence together.
Because they wouldn't even know what to ask them if it wasn't for their investigation in the first place.
Right. So they would be quietly doing all of this. And my guess is at some point, Christian Firth is going to be like, I want a deal, and I will give you everybody.
Is that the hope? Is that the hope? Is that it'll roll over on everybody else that's in the thing? Because
it's either that or he goes to jail.
He could be a flight risk at the moment. I mean, he's from England. He has He can.
He's from England, but who knows? Like nobody knows if his passport's been revoked or anything like that. Like nobody knows anything. I think there's a reason he's still here. So, there's a lot of background information that nobody knows. Nobody really can know at this point. But I think he can probably avoid jail if all of the hyperbole about what he has talked about before is actually true. He let's assume it is. So that means
which hyperbole are you referring to?
So he has boasted before that he has relationships with ministers, that he has relationships with elected officials, he has relationships with Chrystia Freeland's office, he has relationships all around the government. So let's say all of that's true.
That's bad news.
Right. And he's not just going to go and say this in committee, because then the RCMP will say, thank you very much, now you're going to jail. So you want to hold on to those aces as long as you can, because he doesn't know if they're going to come and talk to him, which they absolutely are. His lawyer's probably telling him they absolutely are. So this is where you need to be saying as little as possible, so you have the most bargaining chips that you can, because Christian Firth is nobody in this whole thing. Everyone needs to understand that. He's a tool, and I don't mean that as an insult. He's actually a tool. And
and he's
some of the
tool.
people using that, some of the people using that is Christian Cameron McDonald and Antonio Utano. So these guys are the ones that have obscured all of this documentation about ArriveCAN that the Auditor General can't find. Then they come to committee and said, there's lots of documentation. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then you have Mindone, the what was his?
The CIO of the CBSA, the Chief Information Officer, is in charge of all of IT at the CBSA. All of his emails during ArriveCAN have disappeared.
How do you get away with that?
Right? He was saying, oh, well, I don't know what happened. They were corrupted as I was moving them around. No, that's not what happened.
Well, he's corrupted. Was he in talks with the Clintons? Did he
right?
They wipe them down, I don't know, with a cloth or whatever she said?
I don't know, but now he's magically on stress leave.
Oh, okay, yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. And he is now the Chief Technology Officer for the entire federal government. Interesting promotion that he received after ArriveCAN, and it was a non-competitive promotion as well. Isn't that interesting?
We're hearing a lot about things that are non-competitive.
Right? And that's the other thing. So since the Liberals took over, professional services contracts, they are supposed to be, the vast majority of those contracts are supposed to be competitive. This should be no surprise to anybody. Meaning that whenever the government puts out a contract, there's supposed to be a competition, and ideally you're supposed to get the lowest price for the best value. Well, over 60% of the contracts were non-competitive. That means these vendors are just getting contracts without having to compete against other vendors. Why is that? Why has that changed under this government? Don't know. And so that brings us to Darren Anthony. Now, Darren Anthony was supposed to testify in the fall with Christian Firth.
And Darren Anthony's the other owner?
The other partner for GC Strategies.
Okay. Which stands for Government of Canada, I learned this week.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
I was shocked.
Much
that
to the
they
Liberals'
admitted that.
chagrin, Clyde. They didn't want that to they raised a point of order yesterday on that, and like, hey, they said it. It's on record.
What? They didn't want people to know that?
They didn't want that to be said in committee. Even though Christian Firth said it the day before. Yeah, they originally stood for Government of Canada Strategies. Now, the legal name is just GC. So, but whatever. This is what Christian Firth said. And the funny thing is that one of the gotchas that the Liberals thought that they had, and they were trying to hit the Conservatives and Harper over the head with this, was, well, the owners of GC Strategies owned a previous company called Corridell Systems, And that operated under the Harper government. So the Harper government were giving these guys hundreds of millions of dollars at that point. Well, we learned that that wasn't the case, Clyde.
Well,
What we
even
learned-
if it was, let's go after that too.
well, yeah, and it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But but that's backfired on them as well, because GC Strategies actually only, so Christian Firth and Darren Anthony purchased Cordell in 2015 for the sole purpose of the fact that Cordell Systems already had a relationship with the federal government, so they didn't have to go through this long drawn out process of being an approved vendor.
Right.
So they just bought a crappy little company with no employees, by the way, that already had that clearance and was already on the government buy and sell list. And they said, great, now we can start making millions and millions of dollars because we're already an approved vendor. Off we go. And we already know somebody in there called Cameron McDonald. So we're good to go. So, so the Liberals were trying to say, well, these guys were getting money before this. No, they were not. So,
well, not them.
They said,
that vendor was, or whoever owned it.
Right, but the whole Liberal narrative was Christian Firth and Darren Anthony, they were getting paid in the Harper government. Well, they weren't. They weren't.
Oh, the thing that cracks me up, I don't have it on hand right now, but it was like back in 2008, there was a publication in Ottawa. I think it was like some, entrepreneur's publication, finance thing. And they were saying, GC Strategies, the fastest growing company in Ottawa. Like,
right.
What? Yeah. Right. Yeah, they are.
And the interesting thing is they actually, it was actually three of them, if you recall. It was Caleb White, Darren Anthony, and Christian Firth that started GC Strategies.
I did see that in the article, yeah.
Now, the interesting thing was, is in our research back in the fall, when we found out there was this third partner, Caleb White, we were like, okay, so went and checked him out on his professional profile. He doesn't list GC Strategies at all.
So he got the heebie-jeebies, and he's like, "This is a scam. I'm getting out of this. I don't want to go to jail."
What we're wondering. So one of the questions we may be asking, just as a quick one on Monday is, are you guys going to call Caleb White and ask him why he left?
That would be great. That would be great to find that out.
Yeah, because
they made millions of dollars. Why would you back out of that business for any
lot of money?
Right?
A lot of money. And I think it would be interesting.
So how much has GC Strategies made? Not just in the Arrive Can, but how much have they made over the course of the time that those guys have owned it?
So one of the inaccuracies that is repeated, so what you probably heard, and I think you actually played it on a clip, where was Pierre saying that GC Strategies was reported to have received $250 million. So that was actually right. That was according to an article posted by a Quebec newspaper called La Presse, and they actually issued a correction a couple days later that it was 96 million because of the shoddy government record keeping. So it was about $96 million paid through GC Strategies since I believe it was 2015. Now, if you take their high point commission of 30%, then that means that Christian Firth and Darren Anthony each received about $15 million each.
$15 million they got out of that whole
in
thing.
their pocket.
Yeah, because like $1 million contract doesn't mean that you get $1 million.
Correct. They get between 15 and 30%. Now, Christian Firth also really said high. Our average really was 21%. So if we take 21%, then what that works out to is around $20 million. So it's $10 million each. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad
Almost
at all.
$1 million a year.
And like for all intents and purposes, I mean, we can sort of draw like the government coffers and our tax dollars and a funnel off to the side that's going right in those guys' pockets, right? Because I mean, they did no work. Nothing.
No, Darren Anthony admitted yesterday to doing less than 10 hours a month.
Yeah, 10 hours a week.
No, I thought he said per month.
It was so what, yeah, so what they said was, they set him up, and it was one of his big mistakes yesterday, because I'm not sure if you were still on the stream on the Firth one, Clyde, when they asked Firth how many hours a month did you work on ArriveCan, and he said about 40 hours. So they said about 10 hours a week.
And that was what Christian Firth had said.
Yeah, and then yesterday they asked Darren Anthony, like, how much did you work on ArriveCan? And he said, I don't know. And they said, did you work on it as much as Christian Firth? And he said, no, less. So they trapped him. So they said, so you worked less than 10 hours a week? And then Darren Anthony, you could see he was like, oh crap. because they had said, well, we split the profits 50-50. And so naturally the conservatives are trying to go after, okay, so you got paid taxpayer money to do basically nothing.
Now, I don't want to split hairs. Like, so for example, like there are people that are billionaires out there, like Elon Musk, for example. He's a billionaire. He's making a lot more money than that. But
he also works his ass off.
He also works his ass off. But he's not only that, he's providing services for people, and it's all good. There's all kinds of people that 100%. Get paid all kinds of money, and like just the sheer amount of money is not. And the little amount of work
be indicative of
it's more about, did the taxpayer get value for what money was spent?
Well, here's the problem, right? So if you look at, these guys are basically just doing what average recruiters do, and this is the issue.
Yeah, the scum. Sorry.
Well, because the average recruiter gets around 20%. And there's a lot of recruiters that will make a base salary plus a commission, and the commission is on that 20%. So they may only get like 3% of that plus their base salary. So the more people they actually fill in positions, then the more incentivized they are to actually get more money.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is what these guys did is, these guys aren't at the top of a big organization that they're just, they're doing other things and working all the time, and they're reaping the rewards of everybody under them. That's not what they're doing. They're literally doing the bottom rung jobs, but they're charging big company prices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue. Now, that's not all on them. That's also on the federal government for allowing that even to happen in the first place.
Yes.
So that's the whole thing. Everyone that's crapping all over GC strategies, they deserve all of the manure that they're getting.
Yes.
But the other piece to this, and this is where this has exploded, is all of the problems inside of the federal government, which brings us to another company called Dalian. So Dalian is a company that is always in what they call joint partnership with another company called Cordex. These guys are just staffing companies as well. Now, they get paid. Dalian got like a $22 million contract. You know how many employees they have? 3. So what did they do? They subcontract to Cordex. Cordex then subcontracts out to other people. So everyone's taking a percentage along the way and getting rich off of it. Now, the other thing that Dalian does is they operate as an indigenous classified company, meaning they get preferential treatment in the procurement selection process.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. Okay.
Now, the CEO of Dalian is a man named David Yao. David Yao, it was recently discovered, also works for the Department of National Defense for the federal government. That's not allowed, Clyde.
No. There's I don't know what's the phrase they call it. There's an interest,
Double
and then
dipping.
there's like a conflict of it, something along those.
It's a conflict of, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. But yeah, so
fucking great. Sorry for my French.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What?
It's insane. It's insane. And this guy appeared before committee. Like, the gonads on this guy, to appear before committee, being a an employee of the Department of Defense, and nobody seemed to recognize him. And then when it was discovered that he actually was the CEO of Dalian and also part of the federal government, he was suspended. So, like, there's all of this crazy fraud, and it's interesting. I was just seeing one of the comments in your chat. And I was going to say something, but I'm not going to.
Oh, somebody, Mark accepted my apology. He's bilingual.
Oh, there you go. But
well, so my question is, because like this is happening. GC Strategies, now this Dalian company, who's got insiders. He is the inside. He's his own insider. Like,
yeah,
that's how lazy they're getting, that they don't even have like another guy. It's my guy, you know, that kind of thing. And we hear now the Auditor General had 3 staffers in her office that
fired.
Yeah, fired
for doing the same thing, for contracting it to other departments.
Contracting, conflict of interest contracts, like the Auditor General's office, right under her nose. Crazy.
Yeah, they were all fired last year, I think. Yeah.
But this is crazy, because the question obviously is this just the tip of the iceberg? How many contracts go out from the federal government or municipal governments or provincial governments, all these governments across Canada? What's our spending tally per annum?
Oh, on professional services, it's like $20 or $30 billion or something like that.
How is all of it like this?
And that's the question, right? So there's kind of a rule in auditing, right? Is when an auditor comes into an organization and they say, give me, I'm here to look at your processes of X. So it could be your financial processes, it could be your information management processes, whatever it is. So they say, okay, you show me what your process is supposed to be, and then you do. And then they say, show me a list of examples that have gone through your process. So those could be invoices, those could be purchase orders, whatever process it is. And so then you give them the list, and then what they do is they'll pick a random sampling. So let's say they'll say, we'll take 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here, 2 from here. Mm-hmm. And if they don't find anything, then they look at that as a reasonable degree of confidence that your process is working well, because I've picked random samples throughout your process that you've been working on, and I didn't find any irregularities. Mm-hmm. But in this case, they're only looking at 3 organizations, and in all three, they have found significant corruption.
All 3.
So from an auditor perspective, if you were to go into an organization and you say, give me 3 examples out of the 20,000 transactions that you had this year, and they found irregularities in all 3, their next reaction is going to be, give me 100 more. And then they're going to really start digging, because the odds of that being just a fluke is very, very low. So yes. They take that as an indication that there's a much larger problem going on here. So, and the fact that you are seeing, like, the more they dig, the more rot is coming out of this. That's why we said a couple months ago that we think this is probably going to be what takes down the government, not ArriveCan itself, but what it exposes.
No. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, ArriveCan is a debacle. Like that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But all it's ever done was actually, it's kind of the curtain's been lifted. We can all see we all know who the wizard is now.
Yeah. And they've called in Anita Anand, who's the current president of the Treasury Board, and
wasn't she the defense?
She used to be.
Oh, okay. She's been. Yeah, there was the shuffle. I lose track of the Parliament trading cards. What's her thing now?
She's president of the Treasury Board Secretariat. That's the most powerful agency in Canada. They distribute all of the money.
Right? She seems nice, hey?
I think she's probably the most intelligent of them, but she's still a liberal. So the problem is you have, like, I think she did a competent job. Like, she was trying to clean up the stuff going on in national defense when she was there. Um, the issue that she's going to have is she
Clean up
wasn't
or
the one in
clean
charge.
out?
Both.
Okay.
Some for in some cases it's both.
Yeah.
But you end up having this case where there's people that are basically taking plausible deniability by saying, well, I wasn't there. Well, it doesn't matter. You're the minister responsible. And this is where the Liberals are really
Yes.
getting hit hard, because in almost every committee they're saying, well, the minister can't be held responsible for what goes on their agency that they're actually responsible for. Pardon?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's on them.
Well, then why do they get paid $90,000 more for actually being a minister?
This gets into so I put out a video the other day, and I kind of did this intentionally. Sometimes I'll like kind of prod my own viewership and say, like, I put in the title, everything wrong with Canada is on these two, and it was Freeland and Trudeau, and immediately get all the reactions like, no, obviously there's more involved, there's more people that are to blame.
Not for them.
Yeah, but it's all through them. They're the leaders of all of this.
Buck stops with them,
right? And that's kind of what I was alluding to. I knew what the reaction would be.
Well, and it's the same thing. So in private organizations, if something really bad goes on in the government, in their organization, like something criminal,
mm-hmm.
the top brass, they're the ones that go to jail. So if there's like fraud found and criminal negligence within the company, it's the top people that go to jail.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be.
And it's because they have the accountability, which is why they get paid so much. They take on all of that risk.
And they should police the stuff.
And they should police it,
100%. Right? Because if not, it's their neck. At the end of the day, that's
it. And that's how the system's supposed to work. It's in their best interest to make sure that their company is actually above board. Because if something happens, well, then they're screwed.
Instantly, that made me laugh just inside because it's their neck, and why do we say that? Maybe it has something to do with like the French Revolution. I don't know. I'm not inferring anything like we should do that or anything like that. No, just like maybe that's where that phrase comes from. Leave a comment if anybody knows actually where that phrase comes from. Incidentally, in Japanese, to be fired, the word for that is kubi, which translates to neck.
There you go. There you go. Lose your head.
Yeah, something like that. So
you are useless.
So obviously, like, your ongoing coverage of this, you've been pulling so much out of this, which is crazy because, like you said, this might be the scandal of all scandals, and that says a lot because holy crap, this government has done some really crappy stuff, and a lot of it. But that being said, like this one unearthing, like if it's just all corruption across the board, does the buck stop with just Trudeau, or is this going to unearth bipartisanship and corruption all over the place?
It's hard to say how much this will unfurl. The problem that this is going to present for Trudeau and Singh, and this is why Singh, the Liberals actually have been getting very frustrated in committee because all of the meaningful votes and motions, the Liberals have been losing because the NDP has consistently been voting with the Conservatives in the bloc on this recently. So, and it was even mentioned kind of on almost a hot mic a couple weeks ago in the the Standing Committee for Public Accounts, one of the Liberals had said, well, maybe when the NDP had voted against the Liberals, they said, well, maybe this will affect pharmacare. So, you know, the pharmacare bill that's not even pharmacare.
Yeah,
but
they're just kind of holding that, dangling that carrot for them. Vote with us.
So, but at some point, the Liberals and the NDP are going to have to face reality, and they're going to have to look at the polls. Not to say that they aren't. They're always looking at the polls, even though they say, well, we don't look at the polls. You 100% look at the polls every week. And what you're seeing is that there has been a straight line trend line for the Conservatives for over 2 years now. And the opposite trend line for the Liberals. And it's not getting better. They have flipped to Mr. Valaket, and he has done nothing to stem this tide. It's actually gotten worse because he has had the Liberals now doing things that they said they would never do, which is attack ads and all of this other stuff. So they're actually alienating even more voters from them.
Right.
Now the NDP, they are watching April 22nd very carefully as it approaches, which is the boundary change for the ridings. And they are watching April 16th coming along very shortly. But that's when the budget is presented, which is the next scheduled confidence vote.
Right.
So they would have seen they made a big song and dance about pharmacare. In terms of the polls, it did nothing. Literally
Worse,
zero.
it went backwards. It went down.
Yeah. So their support actually decreased after the pharmacare bill was announced. They're going to be looking at, and all of a sudden they stopped talking about pharmacare. Now they're talking about school lunch and other this other thing that they announced recently that they're going to force the government to do. They're trying to see if them exercising their quote unquote power is actually going to be moving the needle at all now with their base. And if it doesn't, if they don't see that there's any inclination over the next couple of weeks, they have to make a decision. And the decision is, we either go now when it sucks to have an election for our party, or we wait until after April 22nd when the boundary ridings change and it gets a whole lot harder for our party. So I use this analogy often. The Titanic has already hit the iceberg. So is it better to get off the boat at the beginning of when it starts sinking, or at the end when it is submerging between the waves and you're having to jump off and hope for the best? So do you get off in the lifeboat or jump off at the end? Because either way, it's going down and there's nothing they can do about it. So they need to understand this, because think about what happens over the next 12 months with the NDP. On April 1st, carbon tax goes up.
Yeah.
And be screamed about that even more than they already are. Look at all they're trying to do it. And that's all going to be then directed towards the NDP. You allowed this to happen. You are making this this even worse. And then everyone who bought a house 4 or 5 years ago, all your mortgages are now going to be coming due in the next 6 to 12 months, and you are now going to be paying double that, which all of the banks are starting to get scared because they're saying there's a mortgage crisis coming, and we're looking at a large number of defaults. And remember 2008, everybody? Well, we could be seeing that in Canada.
Yeah.
So so then if that happens, the economy really takes a tank. And all of this is going to be laid at the feet of the NDP. You did nothing.
Yeah, we already know the Liberals are at fault.
They're done.
But the NDP are enabling them.
100%. So they actually have the potential of decimating their party. So they need to look at this. Like, do we get off in a lifeboat and maybe sail past the Liberals? Because right now they're about neck and neck, which is not because the NDP have gone up. The Liberals have been dropping so much. Justin Trudeau is actually starting to be in danger of losing his seat, which was not the case 3 or 4 months ago.
Wow.
He's only about 7 points ahead or something like that. So so the NDP strategically, if they want to A, increase the number of seats they have, and B, have a shot at keeping the ones that they have, They have to go now, broke or not. They have to go. Like they have to call the election now, just strategically. Because if they don't, they're not going to have a party left.
Wow. So you're standing firm on the spring election thing, yeah, as we discussed before.
This is it's a question.
We have a bet going, by the way, for the audience. It's a meager like $5 bet, but it's still a bet nonetheless. I said they're gonna ride it out until 2025. You think there's a spring election? I was kind of leaning towards it, but I'm actually kind of still thinking that it's gonna go to 2025. They don't care.
Well, this is
they know they're gonna kill their party and
strategically should do versus what they may do. Like, so strategically, they should go now.
Strategically, they should have never accepted that quote unquote pharmacare deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that should have brought us to election. But jag meat's gonna jag meat, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and the Liberals, look at the Liberals. The Liberals actually should call an election now.
Yeah.
Not for Trudeau's benefit,
not for him,
but for the rest of the party.
For them, yeah.
The rest of the party should be like, we need to cut bait and stop this right now. Because if we ride this out, we are going to be so done by the time the election comes around. Like, their brand is completely destroyed. The problem is okay, if they were going to try to salvage any sort of reputation, they need to be changing party leaders now, so that the new leader of the Liberals can start trying to convince Canadians that they're remolding the party in their image and at least preserve.
Nobody wants that job. Nobody wants that job.
And nobody's strong enough in the cabinet to do it. That's the other problem. And that's by design.
And look, in Ontario, it took them 6 years to elect a permanent leader after the decimation of the provincial Liberal Party here.
Yeah, they lost party status.
They did.
And the Liberals could as well. Like, if believe me, the best thing for the Conservatives is to actually not have an election right now. Is to wait until after April 22nd.
Yes.
So the Conservatives, this is actually quote unquote the worst time, as good as it would be. This is the worst time for the Conservatives to have an election because they don't get the extra 4 automatic seats that will be in their pocket in Alberta, and they don't get all the extra seats that flip over to Conservatives as a result of all the boundary changes.
So are they in like supermajority territory?
They're up to 210.
Yeah, I think like there's no true definition of supermajority, but I think most people say like over 200 is usually considered supermajority, but it doesn't really like give them anything extra in the House. It's just kind of like bragging rights.
right. And it's easier to pass bills, and even when you have opposition within your own party, you can still ram things through.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. So there is actually a downside to having such a large amount of people, because that you end up running into a situation where it's a possibility that factions can start actually appearing within the party and within the government. And then you end up with potential problems where you have, let's say the majority cabinet is from, say, Ontario and Quebec, but you have a large contingent of Conservatives out west, and they don't feel that their interests are being reflected very well because they're actually not being represented in cabinet. So you actually have the potential of different factions forming based on the geography of where these different MPs are actually being elected from. So it's not all sunshine and roses if you have a massive amounts of people in a majority government.
I see.
But we'll see.
Insane.
We'll see.
Insane. The way things have been going. I'd like to see sooner than later, but like you said, it's really up to Jagmeet Singh at this point. He's the last call on all of this stuff.
Yeah, and he is starting to become in danger of losing his seat as well. Now, some people will say, well, he doesn't care. He's going to leave after his term is done anyway, which is a possibility. But this is where, the rest of the NDP caucus, who isn't only interested in a pension, some of them are actually interested in retaining their seat, if you keep Jagmeet around, that's not going to happen. So I think one of two things will happen. I think if there isn't a spring election, I think what will probably happen is if support continues to decline for the NDP, the next convention, I think, is in the fall for the NDP. That's when their next leadership review is. And you may see Jagmeet, ousted, or maybe even before then. It's possible.
Imagine that. I would actually like to see that happen.
Yeah,
that would be because there's some severe opposition to him even within the party, right?
Yes, there is. There's some very unhappy NDP people in the caucus, based on what they're seeing happen, because all they're seeing is they're getting hate from all these people. Like, look at the even the videos that Jagmeet posts and any of his NB people. Oh, we're out here with all of these people, and there's like 12. There's no support for them. We're in their ridings, and why? Because everyone's pissed, and rightfully so. So at some point they have to ask, okay, like we need a different brand here. We need a different person here. Like, Jagmeet still has an opportunity to salvage this if he stands up and says that he's the one who took down Justin Trudeau and voted no confidence. He can salvage the NDP ship. But the problem is he's made it harder for himself by kind of trying to sell this this pharmacare lie that everybody has caught on to, that it's complete horseshit. So he's already hurt himself and the party a lot, and he's just playing into the Conservatives' hands at this point.
So right now I'm going to do a shows first. This is probably the first I've ever done this, but I really have to use the washroom. I'll be right back because I've had too many wobbly pops, and I'm just this conversation is insane. I have some super chats to get to, and I'm just gonna run off. I'll be really quick. I know you guys are amazing hosts, and you'll fill in for me in this moment. I'm doing the wobbly pops dance right now.
Well, you should have a bottle.
Oh, come on.
I'll be right back, guys.
Come on, you're a mechanic.
Yeah. I'll have to just go behind the back bumper. Here, I'll be right back.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Too, I swear.
This is where Clyde is literally running to the washroom. So.
I actually may have to disappear shortly to let our dog out. So.
Well, that's fine. We'll just start live streaming a Rive Cam or something. So. But yeah, there you go. Clyde is not is human, not AI. There you go. Hey, quick, any fast questions for Seifert and Fox? It's not like we haven't done that before. But what we can do is we can, as Clyde's doing that, we're actually going to be, for those that don't know, we are interviewing four members of Parliament next week: Larry Brock, Stephanie Kuzi, Kelly Block, and Garnet Jennis from the OGO committee. So that is going to be something that we're super excited about. It's crazy. We never thought we'd actually have that opportunity. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to be interviewing them if everything holds on Monday, and then we're going to be premiering that as an episode probably later in the week. So that's going to be something. NP takes over Clyde. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna call this NP Nation now with the Clydesdales.
Oh man, my teeth were floating. It was insane. I really did just get to that point. So apologies, everybody. That's what happens when you get on the wobbly pops before the stream. It hits you. Normally, I would have like a segue video, like intermission or something like that.
That's okay. We were just promoting our MP interview, so.
Oh, awesome! I mean, if I can't promote you guys enough, you can always come on the channel and promote yourselves for sure.
Did you happen to see the latest update that we had?
What was the latest update?
We have a fourth MP now. Did you see that?
No. Who's coming on your show?
Larry Brock.
Shut up.
The Brockinator.
No way. No, I'm a big fan of what he does.
He's awesome.
And the reason why I'm a fan is because, okay, so politicians are politicians. You love them or hate them or whatever, right? Larry Brock, he genuinely, I honestly think he actually cares about these subjects. He actually cares about what he's talking about. He actually wants to get to the bottom of this stuff. It's not a partisan game for this guy. Like, obviously he's in the Conservative Party, but I don't think that that's his motive. I think his motive is legitimately get to the bottom of this stuff.
I agree. I've spoken to him over the phone. It was actually kind of neat. I just asked to speak to him. Like, I called his office. I'm like, yeah, can I talk to Larry Brock? And they said,
Sure.
about what?
Yeah.
I said, well, I just want to ask him about what's going on in committee. And I said, I have the voices of many conservatives that have a perspective on this, and I'd like to speak to him. So he said, sure. And then he called me back like half an hour later.
Yeah, I don't think you even said you were from Northern Perspective.
No, I
think
didn't
you were
even.
just...
They didn't even ask me what riding I was from, which actually they scored a lot of points with me. Because I think that is important. That they shouldn't care what riding you're in, and though the Liberals will want to know exactly what riding you're in, and if you're not from their riding, they won't talk to you at all. They won't email you. They won't do anything.
Well, I think it depends on the subject, though. If you're calling about, say, like you need help with your passport documents, or you need help with your tax return or something, which your MP's office will help you with, they want you to go to your MP. They don't want you to be calling around to the office of an MP you like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, stupid cats.
Something spooked him.
Yeah, they knocked over a basket of stuff. So I ended up asking him, I said, listen, one of the concerns that myself and a lot of conservatives have is there's all of these investigations going on with ArriveCan, SNC, SCTC scandal, and now the Winnipeg Lab, like all this stuff. I said, and one problem that we all know is when Parliament's dissolved and elections call, all those investigations stop. They are now dead and completely thrown out the window. So when,
Really?
yeah, all committees are dissolved and the investigations are over. So I said, when you guys get into government, and then he interrupted me. He said, the answer is yes. I said, oh, he said, we are going to restart every single investigation that we have because we are intent on holding this government to account. And the advantage that we will have is we will outnumber everybody in every committee, and we will not be shut down in our pursuit of the truth of all of the corruption that was going on. So that was actually reassuring to hear. And then he said something that I had said on the live stream. He said, the one thing with me is I am like a dog on a bone when it comes to pursuing justice, and I cannot let go.
Yeah.
And he's so direct. I really appreciated that. So
we need to see some real justice, though, in this country. Like, none of this.
We do.
None of this, like, ethics commissioner says blah blah. Whatever that stuff.
They need to strengthen all the ethics laws and all of that stuff.
We need some perp walks. Like, we need some perp walks. Like, people going to jail for fraud.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, and I'm not talking about witch hunts or anything like that. I'm talking about people that have committed crimes, white collar crimes, as people would call it. Go to jail for them. And I'm talking like anybody, as high as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's actually going to be one of the questions that we are posing to the Conservatives on Monday, is related to how do we ensure that the Prime Minister's office and the cabinet are not above the law? What are you guys going to do when you form government? So that's going to be something that I'm going to be interested to get their answer for. We ended up compiling about 10 questions based on all of the just dozens and dozens of questions that we've seen in our chat and the comments and all that stuff. So we took like what we felt are the real important and tough questions, and we're going to be asking them those, and we're probably only going to be able to get to 4 or 5 questions just because it's 30 minutes. It's 4 MPs. that's going to disappear very, very quickly. Um,
Yeah.
Especially if politicians can
I'm
talk,
aware
right?
of how these things go now at this point. You prepare for
So,
so much, and then you only get to a couple of things.
yeah, so we've picked out what we feel are just the real meaningful questions.
Just don't ask them about
Um,
golf balls or something like that.
no, no. Um,
That's a
and
Chrétien reference. You wasted. You rode the clock out with that one.
and if I don't get the answer that I want, I'm going to challenge them on it, because Canadians don't need promises; they need assurances. That's what they need. Um, don't tell me you're going to do something if you have no intent of doing it. And it's one thing I've said on our channel before. I said, if Pierre's listening, I have a message for Pierre. Be careful. Be very, very careful, because there's so many people around this country that you have given hope to based on the promises that you've made. If you don't respect that, and if you renege on these promises that have given these people hope, you will never ever get it back.
No,
They will
and
come. They
nor
will come
will
for
the
you with more
Conservative
vitriol.
Party.
No, they will come for you with more vitriol than they came for Justin Trudeau,
Mhm.
because Justin Trudeau, it was corrupt to their face, and if the corruption that they end up seeing is behind hopeful words, it's a dangerous game to play. Now, I don't have any belief that Pierre is going to do that, but everyone does need to prepare themselves. At some point, the Conservative government is going to have problems. There's going to be scandals. There's going to be issues. It's how they handle it is going to be what's important.
So my thought on, so obviously Pierre Poilievre is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. That's a shoe-in.
Yep.
There's
Unless something crazy happens.
Yeah. But as much as what Pierre does in the media, he's a savvy politician. He says a lot of the right things, right? And he knows how to get people on his side. But as much as he is, winning and all that stuff, and the rhetoric that he says, he's still just he is still a politician, right? And he still plays it safe on so many things, and we've seen this over and over again. It's been disappointing at times, it's been frustrating at other times, and and then it's also been rewarding at other times. But at the end of the day, he does still play it safe. I think it's our job at the end of the day to move the culture forward, because the political left have taken over the culture in every aspect, media, whether it's like entertainment media or print media for news, all these other things, education, all of the facets of our society. They've taken over this stuff. It's our job to turn that around so that the popular culture aligns more with the average Canadian, instead of this hyper focused woke group of whatever you want to call them, elites, or just a small minority. Ideologues. It's our job to wake everybody up so that we're all putting the pressure on that government as they're in power, and that's what's going to move things in the right direction. We can't wait around for a savior, but we can wait around for a politician that's looking to keep his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and one thing that we've started to talk about is people don't need to wait for the savior. You need to be your own savior, and what I mean by that is, we have been conditioned intentionally to spend more time thinking about which next mobile phone we're going to buy, what type of brand of TV are we going to buy, what movie are we going to be watching. People spend more time researching the type of movie that they're going to be watching this weekend than the next mayor of their town, than the next candidate of their riding, and that needs to change. It really needs to change. And it's I'm not going to say it's Canadians' faults, because it's happening everywhere, and the people at the top, they're counting on you not paying attention. An informed and educated population is the most significant threat to any corrupt government, because you have the power to actually change it. So, when your next city councilor is coming up for election, you need to look up who they are. You need to ask to speak to them and the other candidates, because it's not just the federal government that needs a change. It's every level of government.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
municipal. It's your education board. It's your trustees. It's your provincial government. And every single person has the power to make that change. And you just need a pencil and a voting card. So research these people, understand what their politics are, and make the best informed decision that you can. And if you've done that, and the population at large still elects somebody who's incompetent or a bad choice, at least you have a completely clear conscience and saying, I've done everything that I can.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I challenge everybody to do that. And it's not said with any sort of malice, because we've all done it. We've all done it in elections. I've done it, but I'm vowing not to do that anymore. And I'm seriously going to be looking at every single candidate in every single election that I have the power to vote in, and I'm exercising that power. It's the most powerful, I think, act that you can do as a citizen of any country, and that's where you become more powerful than any government.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining me today. We've been going for almost 2 hours now. So,
Yeah, we're tired.
I'm sure you guys are tired. You guys have been working your butts off lately and getting so much information out there for so many people, and obviously being rewarded for it with the new subscribers to the channel, tons of people watching what you guys are doing. It's obvious why people are going there, because the quality of the content is just so incredibly high. The frequency of the content these days is just incredibly
We're slowing down a bit because holy crap.
Yeah, holy cow, incredible. But just like, I can't say it enough, like, great work, amazing job. You guys are just you killing it, and there's not enough people doing what you do.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Clyde. It's interesting because I think you were one of the first shows that we were actually brought on, and it's nice to chat again. And as we keep saying, Team Canada, that's what this is Team Canada. Every content provider that is exposing what is going on in the government, we do it in different ways, and that's why we share audiences. And we don't we don't consider ourselves competitors, because we're all working for the same purpose. And we have different styles, different quirks, but it's literally Team Canada, and sooner or later Team Canada is going to win. We're going to get this government out of there. But thank you for the kind words. Thanks for having us on, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clyde. It was great to see you again, and it was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Let me get to a couple of last super chats before we head out. I hope I don't miss any. If I do, apologies. There was just so many today. It's crazy. Peter Witten, $2, says, EWE says, inspire us all to be heroes in our own spheres. That's really nice to say. Kevin Taylor with $2.50 says, Auditor General staffers fired over contracts. Well, we went into that. Pandemonium for $2 says, as Cypher says, we support an ideology, not a party.
We support platform, not party.
Oh, there
Don't fall into an ideology, because if you support an ideology, then you are blindly committed to it. That's the difference.
I support philosophy and not ideology. So I have like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I often use the Socratic method. I think it's just like a fantastic thing to do for all
Socrates,
aspects.
my boy.
Yeah,
Socrates, my boy.
He's my boy too. Yeah, exactly. Wix Farm for $5 says, hi from Shawville, Quebec. Good job for both channels. Start with Clyde during the convoy, and Cypher and Fox last year. and love you guys. That's awesome. Really nice
Thank
to
you
say.
so much.
Thank you.
Wesley Snipes with $5 says it's our job as citizens to protect each other, hold our elected officials accountable, and call out the BS. I'm trying our best. Jarcia for $5 says, don't feel bad for those public servants, Clyde. They just have to go and get a job that adds to the economy instead of leeching off of it, as we were talking earlier about. People are going to lose their jobs. I mean, it's coming. Either the government cutting these things, or the government collapsing because they just can't afford it and we're too much in debt. Which one would you prefer? Disc Driver for $5 says, government is like smartphones. Can't live with them, can't live without them. You three heroic Canadians trying to strike a balance. Keep up the great effort. Thank you so much. Val for $4.99 says $5 for Clyde. None for C or F. Sorry, you're a SOL with a big laughing face.
Well, you can come on our Sunday live stream then.
That's hilarious. Diane saying for $20 says, meanwhile, the top heads of departments are playing throw the corrupt ball at each other in committee by being evasive. Nobody taking any responsibility. And there is no ministerial responsibility. It's a lib cover-up. Why?
Because the NDP allowed them to do it.
Yep.
There you go. Next for Cup for $5 says, I think Clyde is right. They do not care what happens to their parties after 2025. That's where I stand by.
Well, some don't, but some do. That's the difference, right? So it's it comes down to political courage in these parties. You're either going to actually grow a spine and represent your constituents, or you're going to capitulate to Mr. Big Bad Trudeau and Mr. Singh. So you're the ones that have to look back on your life when you're 80 and remember what you did in the spring of 2024 when Canada was going down the gutter. What did you do, and what do you want to be remembered by?
Peter Witten with $2 says, what's going on with Menzies right now? I have no idea. I only got the news during the live stream, so I'll be looking into that. Goko Donnie for $10 says, looking forward to Monday's show. Congrats again. That's really awesome, actually. It's so cool what you guys have going. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
It's gonna be surreal.
I'm gonna have to book the time so that I'm not working on something else, because I really want to watch this one.
Well, it's not the video is unlikely to be released on Monday, so just to set expectations for everybody.
Oh, okay. So I'm not booking Monday out. Okay, I'll have things to work on that night.
But we will probably have a better idea on Monday exactly what day and what time we'll be releasing it. Yeah. So there will be an announcement.
And we are going to be premiering it too. So we'll be...
You guys were such teasers though. What was it the other week? We're making a big announcement. And then the announcement was, our announcement is that we're going to tell you who it is at this later date. Oh no, no. Yeah, did you really just do that to me?
Hey, everyone's excited about it in there.
Wow, that's great. Next for Cup for $5. NP is here. Is there a place for us to submit questions you might consider asking for the MPs? Do you have a place to do that?
So we tried that before, and it was very difficult. So what we did is we've already come up with the questions based on all of the feedback that we've actually been looking at over the last couple of months from Canadians. So we're pretty confident that everyone's going to like the questions that we've submitted, because again, they're not softball questions. They're issues that are at the top of the mind. Are definitely going to be questions that people are like, why didn't you ask this question? Mm-hmm. We have 30 minutes. We have 30 minutes and 4 MPs, so we're probably going to be able to get to 4 or 5 questions. So, but we're hoping that this may lead to more conversations. So there are opportunities for more questions, fingers crossed, down the road.
Milady Loves Cats for $50 says, wow, 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 wow. Clyde, Cypher, and Fox, you are knocking this one out of the park. Tell it like it is and set clear expectations so they will know what they will be facing. Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to be clear, concise, and reasonable. Let's just say
100%.
Leo Orchard for $6.99 says, I'm with Cutler. So here $5 so you don't lose any money. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And $2 from Peter Witten. Have a great weekend, everybody. And on that note, have a great weekend, everybody. We're gonna let Fox and Cypher get some much needed rest after this whole week because you guys need it. You
That's
deserve
great,
it.
we haven't been in bed before too since I think Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah,
so
and our little boy's been up at like the crack of dawn.
So we appreciate the time, Clyde. We really, really do. So
Well, I appreciate it. You guys are so generous with your time to come on the show like tonight after all the work you've done. So thank you so much. Thank everyone else in the audience so much for joining in tonight. I hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you guys next week, as well as middle of the week next week. I'll be in Japan, so this is going to be a whole new moment for the show, and I hope we can all enjoy it together.
Have a wonderful trip, safe flight, and you'll be seeing your other house family, I assume.
Yeah, that's the idea. I'm looking forward to it.
That's going to be great. Well, enjoy the time. You deserve it.
All right, everybody, keep on trekking.